I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nick, would you have our prayer, please?
Father, we thank you tonight for your grace and your mercy. We ask a special blessing upon those who might be under the weather this evening, that you be thankful, Father, of those that might be in harm's way, that you put your arm of grace and mercy about them and keep them safe. Give us wisdom tonight, Father, to deal with the issues at hand, that we may glorify you and bring honor to you. For we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Hey, Paul. Oh, you can give me that hand sanitizer right here, because I know I'm going to have to put my nose in. Yeah.
We ask that everybody sign in. Okay. In your packet, we have our minutes from our February 14th, 2022 meeting. Let's take a few minutes to go over those. Are there any additions or corrections? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve the minutes,
Second.
seconded by Amy. All those in favor? Amy.
Abstain.
Okay, on to our next. Old business. Jim, do you have our financial review?
So if we could, Council, good evening, everyone. Three topics tonight. One is the kind of the status of the funds, an update on the jail and income tax ramifications on the jail project. And number three, we have the actual bills for the insurance, workman's comp, and general liability, and where they would come from. So if we could, let's go back to the past if we could. On March 31st of 2021, the general fund, the balance just right about a year ago, was $1,372,856 in the red. That's where we were at a year ago. As of this afternoon, it's still mid-March, but the general fund had a positive balance of $942,763. So council, looking at that, I know it's not exactly day-to-day, but you're looking at about a $2.3 million turnaround is where we're at as far as the county financially and fiscally. Now, in the general fund for the remainder of the next 2.5 weeks in March, there's still one more payroll, there is still one more claims, and then there's the out-of-claim cycle. But clearly, without any doubt whatsoever, there's going to be a positive balance in the general fund at the end of March. So from December, January, February, and March, that's now going to be 4 consecutive months of positive balance. It's very important, going back on cliches, not to count chickens, but we're looking as far as general fund of making it to settlement time. Now, I know that's a little bit up in the air, exactly when the exact settlement will be done, but the amount in the general fund, at least with $942,000, definitely is looking at a trend towards that. a little bit more detail kind of in the general fund. In addition to general fund, all your other major operating funds have a positive balance. The sheriff's balance, the highway balance, EMS, 911, communications, all of these funds that you will find all have positive operating balances. One of the unique things that occurred in February was the fact that the general fund took in 236,000 approximately. It spent 232. So we actually had, on top of keeping a fund balance, we actually had less money expended in February. Now, I would still put that in the category of an anomaly. That has definitely not been the trend in the past 3 years. But this was some very positive news in looking at kind of the expenditures. We still need these next two and a half weeks of data. For you as a council, you'll definitely want January, February, March to start making any actual trends in that. But that's kind of where we stand. So these, I think, are very, very good news in it. More specifically, in the general fund, it started out the year at $889,000. As of February 28th, it had $829,000. So the total expenditure, at least from January 1st to the end of February, has only been in the range of about $60,000. If that trend would also hold, you would look at definitely a positive balance, but maybe, kind of using more an opinionated word, a substantial balance going into settlement. All of these would be good. The amount, the lit distribution is $211,000 without going to the decimal point, but that's a fixed amount. So you know in the general fund about $211,000 is going to come in each and every month. Your others vary as far as, especially the reimbursement for popular counsel is more quarterly, and the area that's revenue, that varies too much to give you any type of pattern. But in any case, 211, there will always be more than that going into the general fund. So those matters look good. Now the other matters, I mean, as far as more historical, there is still the matter of the funds in the red. None of your major operating funds are in the red. You have some grant funds that are in the red, but that's more of a reimbursement, the fact that you pay and collect. Historically, there are still the two issues of the 9051 way around 48, and then obviously with the payroll, that's been, I believe, in the red of approximately $524,000 since 2016. So somewhere in those areas. Those are still there. They're not addressed, by any of the news that I'm giving you here. I'm just saying that the revenue stream of what's coming in general, I would put this in the category of a positive. Your other revenue streams that are coming in, many of these are fixed. So in 1233, that's your jail. That's about $71,000. That's a fixed number. In the sheriff's fund of 1170, the public safety, that's $254,000, plus to the penny. That's a fixed. And then the 1112 lit edit, it used to be 7332. It's now 1112. That's 84. Those are fixed numbers. That's how it's going to be the whole year. That gives you a good idea as far as looking out in appropriations. Those are fixed. That's what you're going to get each month. The variable funds, especially with the highway, so far they have been good. Last year, the average was more in the range of about 125,000 as far as the MHV distribution. That's been more in the 129, 130. This month it was 131. So those variable funds have not went down. They've actually went slightly up as compared to last year. So all of those would fall into fairly good news. Now, for the other, with every good news, there always has to be some things of concern. I'd sent to you on the 8th some areas of projected cost. There are some line items, primarily in the general fund, but most of them, that just based on 2 months alone, only those 2 months, by the end of the year, you will see that some of these funds could be in the red. Now, some could just be anomalies, meaning there was just a really high bill in January, and that kind of set some things off. There's the CASA. If that continued, that would be about 15,000 over, but that fund splits. So this, I would just say this is nothing more than kind of an early warning, just to put on radar, with 2 exceptions. Utilities, just based on the first 2 months, looks like it's gonna miss by around 48,000. Now that is with January energy and January and February energy cost. Okay, that is nothing taking into effect the most recent inflation. We are clearly, council, as you all know, in about a 40-year high as far as U.S. historical inflation. There's been, as far as a gallon of gas, puts it in the range of about a 55% increase in gas, oil, those types. So in the Highway Superintendent's Fund of 1176, it's already a projected miss at $47,000, and that is not taking into account this last change here in March, this increase. So those funds, I mean, to heat the building, to cool the building, to fuel the vehicles will have to come somewhere. All I'm just telling you is just for an early warning in 2 months, these are areas that I would look at. Because I know you're gonna have a lot of questions. Well, since there's this much money, you know, can we use this, can we use this? That's totally within your discretion. But as good as it is, using the highway with the superintendent's, you know, permission, that $2,000 increase is nowhere going to cover the amount needed for fuel, oil, and building supplies. It's not going to come close. It's good that it's not less, but it will not meet that. So that is a general outline of where the funds are. For the jail project, there was a meeting, then there was a follow-up meeting with the commissioners. When I say meetings, these were both done commissioner meetings. The original jail project, when Garmon and RQAW came out, presented a project of roughly $22 million for the jail. That's just for the base of the jail. There would still be soft costs. There would be insurance, interest payments. That $22 million project would be considered about a $30.5 million project over 20 years. You can kind of add that up. That'd be roughly in the range of $1.5 to $1.6 million for the next 20 years. Everyone that heard that and has been quite open said that's not possible. Okay, so the commissioners meeting, they made that crystal clear. The president of the commissioners unanimously has pointed out that there will not be proceeding on a $30 million jail project. So that is going back to taking a look at in the range of a $15 million. It's been sent back to the construction, to the architects, what can be done. I believe they've asked for in the range of about 30 days to come back and explain what can be done in the $15 million range. So with that in mind, just using that at 15 million, probably closer to 22 by the time you put all the interest. Council, you've already raised the lit. It is the point where it can be. There is in the correctional facilities and rehabilitation facilities, that's at a 0.2% rate, okay? That money is dedicated to Fund 1233. That can only go to 1233. That amount is $71,882 a month. That's what goes into that fund. As of at least last Friday, in 1233, there's $749,000, rounding to that dollar. Why don't I spend all this time? I'm telling you that fund is on the clock. It's a 22-year fund. 2 years have already run through. It's a one and done fund. At the end of 22, you can't raise it. That is the primary, whether you call it seed or base money for the jail project. What every financial consultant will come and tell you is that if you're not going to proceed within the next year or two in that area, may want to terminate that tax because you're only allowed to use it once, and that is going to be the primary base. Every financial consultant that has come in, and myself, and I know this will be ad nauseum, has pointed out that fund in that area of 1233, whether it's reconstruction or brand new construction of the jail, will not be enough. It cannot be enough. There's no possible way that you're going to get a note that we can cover as a county for about $71,000. So that money has to come from your other lit areas These rates are not on the clock. So when the public safety went to the 0.9, that tax can go for as many years as the council wants, with the one exception. We really trying to be clear on that. Once the jail project, the contract is signed, the money for 1233 has to be dedicated to the jail, that money. You have then to either take this out of the general fund, the sheriff's fund, of the 1170 public safety, or your lit edit fund. They have to be pledged shares. So when you're looking at the general fund, or you're looking at the budget, so I'll be clear, the sheriff, the amount of revenue coming into the 1170 is right at $3 million. The appropriation for this year is 2.9 million plus. There's only $60,000 difference between the appropriated and what's going to come in. What I'm saying is, if the jail project is decided, look, we're ready to go in 2023. If it's 500,000 or 600,000 more, it's got to come out of that fund or out of the lit distribution, out of your general fund, or out of lit edit. You're pledging that money. So if I can just stick with just for simplicity's sake, at 1170 with the jail, you would have to reduce the sheriff's budget by $500,000, okay, to take that fund, whatever that would be. No new equipment, whatever it would be. But I'm saying these all have to be looked at. So no matter what's going to be done with the jail, the other area is going back to the general fund. In order to ensure the best interest rate and a bank where we're paying less as a county, as good as $900,000 is in the general, fiscal body, you actually would want somewhere in the range of 1.4 to 1.6 million as your base in your general fund. Then, on top of that, money is what you use for your bills, but you really want to get that banked up in some possibility. I don't know that that's a total impossibility in 2022, but it depends on a lot of the decisions that are going to be made. But you want that base, then you want this extra. So not only do you have a positive balance in the general fund, but you want an amount where Owen County would look attractive to banks, saying that there's security here, they've got their savings. Because once you pledge that money for the jail, that comes first over anything else. So if the bill is $1.2 million a year, that 1.2 has to be allocated first when you're doing your budget before you do anything else. So have the rates, have everything. So there's still plenty of time on the correctional, but just as you're making decisions, I would respectfully ask just kind of keep that in mind, that kind of the different goals of trying to get that general fund up as high as you can, and realizing, different expenses, and you're gonna have projected expenses. And I say respectfully, opinion-wise, the amount appropriated right now for gas and oil and the amount appropriated for utilities, don't see any way that you're gonna match. It's gonna have to come from somewhere. So, the last part is the insurance that the county council did on the appropriations. The commissioners had presented a budget. There's a liability insurance and there's workman's comp. Workman's comp, the actual bill came in about $52,000 lower than what was expected. Really good news. So the amount of money for the workers' compensation, the premium is $173,810. That's about a $52,000 less than was expected. It gets billed to the general fund, 1151, which is EMS, 1170, which is the lit sheriff, 1176 highway, and the percent. So those are, all four of those are cash-based funds. So they'll need to work real closely with the auditor. But the insurance company did something even more, and auditors was very instructive in this, commissioner was very instructive in this, that rather than just say, give us the $173,000, they're not asking for that this year. They need a 25% down payment, and that's been taken care of. Then it's a monthly bill for the next 8 months. That's really going to help the revenue streams in these departments. So instead of just saying, give us all your money right now, for the highway, that would have been about $69,000. They can spread that out over 9 months. So that's gonna be a huge benefit. Work for the auditor's office, but better street. Now, liability insurance, the total premium is $426,438. That was slightly more, but completely expected. The total increase, taking liability and workman's comp together, was only 4.4%. That's the total insurance increase for both of those combined. The general health insurance was frozen. So you're looking at, for the county, about a 4.4 increase for all your major insurance policies. I mean, I know that's not zero, but that would definitely be in the positive column. Now, in here, the same 4 departments that I mentioned, along with food registration for $2,850 and community corrections 1,100, those are the 6 departments that will get those bills. Now, the same thing is going to be done. This will be the work is going to fall upon the auditor's office, but 4 of the policies that are the smaller ones are annual. They have to be paid right off the top. But the other 4 can be paid in quarters, the remainder. So it's the same thing. Rather than Owen County getting a bill now for $426,000 for everyone to have to deal with, we're just going to pay in quarters, minus those 4 that have to be paid. So the auditor will have the amounts for your departments on what you would pay. All of the funds have the cash balance for their quarterly payments. So, and the other good news as far as for you as a council, even though the liability insurance went up, so there wasn't quite enough in the appropriations, the workman's comp is so low, all we have to do is transfers. So those 4 departments are just gonna transfer the excess out of workman's comp, put it in liability, and you won't have to, in all likelihood, have to deal with any appropriations out of the cash. So that's kind of where we stand as a group. I will just pass along what I hear, I mean, just constantly from every vendor, everyone comes in. They use every analogy and cliche you can think. Don't let up, don't get off the gas, don't get off the path. Owen County is clearly doing better. But we aren't where the ultimate goal is where you would want to be. You want to get in that 1.4, you want 12 straight months of, obviously in all your major funds, never to be in the red. And you want to be aware of your situation, which you are, but you look at these inflationary costs, supply chain costs, those are likely going to get worse. Council, you made some really good choices in the past. I mean, of taking a look at these funds, making some really hard choices. You're putting the county in a good fiscal pattern, but it is somewhat fragile in that there's not just an X amount. The other good news I would say, that if we can go in April and May, you're gonna have 3 months, and by April, you're gonna have 4 months of data. And when the settlement comes in, when we get that, if we're talking about having a good baseline, say of $300,000 or $400,000 at least in the general fund, and then have $1 million plus put in, that's gonna be much different May, June settlement than you've seen in the past 3 years. That's gonna put the county in a considerably different position than it has been. So that's kind of a summary, that's where you are at in those 3 areas. It's not perfect, but I would leave it, I would say it's definitely positive information overall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
I do have a couple questions, Jim, for you. On your report where you talk about the combined ledger and kind of the projected deficits for some of those key line items, just based on 2 months worth of data.
Only 2, yeah.
There wasn't an entry for the sheriff's department and fuel there, or EMS, and I'm wondering.
Sure, well, here's why.
Yeah.
Why, because they're for 2 months, they're okay.
Okay,
Like right now, just based on the bills that they have paid, they're not in the red. So if that would hold, I don't want to speak for them, but these again were only based on fuel costs of January and February costs. But neither EMS nor the sheriff at this time were in the red.
so do you, at some point, you'll probably update this?
I was gonna do it every month.
Okay.
So I was gonna watch these
Got
each
it.
month. But these were the ones that actually on February 28th were in the red.
Because I like this report, it's a really good report. And there are some on here that can be explained, which we can work on that. But it'd be great with that rolling update, because as the new gas prices kick in, you're gonna see higher.
I would anticipate, at least probably from the sheriff's department, probably gonna be projected in the red. EMS, there's a good amount, that's a little variable, but I would say as a council, I would prepare at this time to highway, the sheriff and the EMS to be in the red by our next meeting in April.
Does anybody else have any questions for Jim?
Okay.
Let's move on to the ARPA funds and the premium pay.
Okay, council, then I'll be done. So, council, the auditor's office, commissioner's office, I think have both been working hours and hours of premium pay. So a little bit, again, reminder of explanation. Premium pay, even though it will look like a 2,000 and a 1,000 for all pretentious purposes would look like a bonus, it is not a bonus. It is premium pay based upon the hours worked in the past under expected a direct COVID exposure, okay? So there are 5 categories in order to qualify for the premium pay that a person has to make. So what was approved in the bucket, the first step is, and that the proposal was submitted to the commissioners to in fact award premium pay to Owen County employees. 2,000 for full-time employees, 1,000 for part-time employees. Rough deadlines, and this is from memory, from notes, it's good memory, that was about an 800-hour cutoff for the part-time, and then the full-time, it was obviously exceeded well over 1,000 hours. That was then verified and went through by the auditor's office. They went through all the departments to see who would qualify and for the hours. So that was the first step. It was passed, so this comes to you as a council, whether to appropriate it or not. That's what's before you. If you decide to go ahead and do that tonight, that money will be, the checks will be processed through the auditor's office, through the payroll department, and then the money is deducted directly out of the ARPA. This would be the first non-administrative expense out of the fund. So of the categories, the first one is have to be a county employee. And I checked with Barnes and Thornburg. Barnes and Thornburg are the coordinator and administrators of the fund. And they went back and did review the treasurer's rule. Independent contractors, vendors, anyone on a W-9, they're not considered employees. It just, they are not. So this is for true county employees that work in that capacity. Elected officials get nothing. Okay, doesn't mean that you should have got it, didn't get it. Elected officials do not qualify for it. So the first thing is, my belief is everyone in the county. The other is that it's the performance of in-person work. I don't think Owen County had much as far as remote work. In the cases of highway, sheriff's department, any offices that were directly with the public, I don't think there's really any issue. Barnes and Thornburg couldn't issue. Yes, the courthouse was restricted, but it was never actually closed to the public, and it was only for a limited time. People still could come in. Councils met. So I don't believe we have any issue with remote, but that should just be verified. So I would say if any departments, if you had your employees work any period of time just purely remotely, if you could report that to the auditor. Again, if it's 20 or 30 hours, it's not going to make any difference. If you had someone work for 6 months remote, we need to take a look at that. Okay, so then it's 150% So, the average in the state of Indiana, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, is this. The average salary in Indiana is $48,650. 150% of that is $72,975. If any county employee has made more than $72,975 this year, they would not qualify. When I say that though, there's exceptions. So looking at that, and I looked at the 2022 salary ordinance, there was only one position, it was a mandated position that pays more than $72,975. It is acceptable, it just needs a written exception, that position, the person there was essential, was working directly, face-to-face, was exposed to COVID, and needed to be here and in person. It's as simple as that, but there is simply only one. So everyone else is at the average, I mean, it's definitely not at 150% over the maximum that went in, but that needs to be double checked, and that would need the permission here from the council, and then that can be worked out. The actual hours are tied from the period of January 1st of 2021 to December 6th of 2021. That's the calendar period, that's what's chosen by the commissioners, that's the salary range. We just want to make sure, and for the auditor, who gets all the work on this and almost every project, they'll need for the State Board of Accounts audit, they're going to need all those hours. So just pick me, for example, if I worked at the auditor's office, at JB, how many actual hours that I've worked. You just want to go ahead and get that already, because the State Board of Accounts is going to be looking and verifying that during that time period, how many, and especially with the comp, to show the present. Then the other one, which Owen County had no one under this category, whatever your hourly rate is, so if it was $10, when you're getting this $2,000 or you're getting this $1,000, it cannot raise your hourly rate $13 more. So if I make $10 an hour, by getting this premium rate, I cannot now make $23. I didn't find anyone even remotely in that category. Most of these raises for 2,000 and 1,000 add in the range of about $1.25 an hour to about $2. So we weren't anywhere near a $13 range that could be detected. Now, the counterpoint would be, I don't know if anyone would fit in that category, but if someone only works, say, like 50 hours a week, one, that's under the 800 hours, but two, I think if you calculate that, that would be something like $20 increase over the hour. That would give you an example of where that could be. All five of those just need to be kind of double checked. Then it's up to you as a county council on how you appropriate it. It is the opinion of Barnes and Thornburg that this is a payroll. So there's payroll taxes that are taken out of it. This is a payroll. This is an increase in premium pay. It's not a bonus pay. I mean, a lot of companies can give a Christmas bonus, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is not what this is. This is going back and recognizing for the work that people have done at that time and the exposure to COVID, you're actually getting a raise somewhere in the range of $1 or $1.25 an hour, depending how it broke down. Now, that's just general. You go back there and say, no, it's not, it's 75 cents. I'm just talking about just in generalities, because to make sure no one did over 13. But that's what this is. So it's up to you, kind of determination. I do believe the auditor's office, they kind of need to know direction of how you want this paid, like just through the payroll, or if you wanted to pay one. I do think there's kind of some tax implications on that, as far as which one is better, but that's at the sole discretion of you as the county council. So before you is an actual appropriation for it. You'd be voting on, there's administrative, that's required. We need a line item for administrative. There's a premium pay appropriation. Highway has their appropriation for it. But if you pass this and decide among you the will of the council on how you want the auditor's office to distribute it, this is the final step. This can actually go out to the people as quickly as it can be administratively done.
So do we need to appropriate, or we need to make a motion do we need to appropriate amount in that motion, or?
I think the thing you would do here, you would need one motion just simply on the one that exceeds the 72,000. Do you want that approved? That's a totally separate issue. then you would need obviously to approve, and the auditor's even written out an actual appropriation ordinance. This would be $255,000 for premium pay. You would be approving that appropriation. Then a third unrelated discussion from the auditor and the council is what actual method, what execution that you want this paid.
What discussion or questions for Jim?
So of the total cost, Jim, does PERF and FICA and some of those have to be on our end, need to also be appropriated to go with that? Or how does that part work?
You're gonna be taking payroll taxes out. What you're approving today is $255,000 to go to ARP to cover the 2 and the 1 on there. Anything that's not covered in that area as far as PERF would then have to be subsidized, by the council.
Okay, so it's not just 255 or 56, it's gonna be that, plus we need to do an appropriation for the qualifying employees that have PERF, and then the FICA and the Medicare cost for everybody.
Right, and I do not have those amounts. What those-
We had, it was originally said to do 300,000.
You have 300,000 in the bucket,
Uh-huh.
is what I'm saying.
Right,
Yeah,
so if we were to appropriate
it may
that
be
amount.
close. Yeah,
Real close.
and so as far as us appropriating, should we pick just a higher number as a guesstimate? Or, because if we're wanting to pay for it, we don't wanna wait another month.
No, I think this needs to be done tonight and decided tonight.
Would be better off to appropriate the 300, wouldn't we? Sheila?
If it goes over that amount, then we're gonna have to go back to the commissioners, because they're the ones that chose that
Yeah.
dollar amount.
Yeah.
So I think we can get everybody in probably for that if you're going to, the normal payroll deductions are gonna come out of that 2,000. PERF would be the only thing you would be adding, because you guys pay part of the PERF.
And the FICA though, for our,
Right, and then the FICA.
Half of this.
so this report, this chart that I'm guessing you prepared or someone prepared, is that in a workable document or something?
Oh, that's prepared by the auditor's office.
Yeah, this
So
one
how did you make that report?
Sherry went through, all the employees worked back and forth with Gary and Jim, and
But I mean,
again, they used the 800 hours. It
Technical,
just-
like what, was it a Word document or what?
Excel.
Excel. So we know the dollar amounts, it's either 2,000 or 1, that's pretty easy.
Right.
And you can easily go down through there. I think we might be able to figure it out pretty close before we adjourn, I would think tonight, and have a dollar amount that we could then appropriate. I don't know.
Made sure it was under the 300, we could appropriate it, and
If it's over 300,000, we can go back to the commissioners on the
Yeah.
21st. Could they make a motion that if it's excess amount of the 300,000, that
We
the
could move
commissioners?
more money from the bucket, into the bucket,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, just to kind of
We
pre-approve
want to
it.
cover whatever it is.
Yes, we don't want to delay it.
And I don't want you to delay the vote.
Yeah.
These people deserve this, they've been waiting on it, they're expecting it. So if we can, let's get it approved, and in your motion, whichever one you want to make, anything that exceeds that, we will move it to the bucket to cover it.
I think we should act.
Okay, so
Well, so the first motion needs to be on the exception, is that correct?
Donna has a question.
And the exception is me.
Ah.
And so I am perfectly fine you not making that. I just really want my staff to get raises more than I want anything for myself. So that would be $2,000 more than plus whatever else for the county to have for
I
raises.
make a motion that we go ahead and authorize the exception of the one employee as stated by James.
We have a
Yeah,
motion on the
I mean,
floor.
I'll second that. I think it's a nice offer, Donna. But in this particular case, it doesn't add a little bit to everybody else's, so there's no benefit there necessarily. It does save back a little bit for the appropriation, but we're gonna make that good anyway, so. But that is appreciated, but I will second that, because I think she should get it, so.
So, any discussion?
You got it.
No. Same.
Yeah, I got a question. I had an employee that worked here for years as a part-time employee. We had to lay him off, not his doing. We brought him back. The only way we could bring him back was for me to pay him out of our commissary fund. He's a cook at the jail. And now they're saying he don't get the bonus. This is not his fault. It wasn't his fault he got laid off to begin with. Then when we bring him back, the only way we could bring him back was under, which you consider a contract employee. This guy worked here for years. The only way to bring him back was to pay us out of the commissary fund. It's not fair to him not to get his $1,000.
Sam, was he particularly laid off because of the COVID crisis?
He was laid off because of last year's budget. Then when we went through the budget about, how we need to cut back and lay off, we laid him off, but then we was a cook short, so we had to bring it.
But essentially it was tied to the 2020 downturn in the economy because of that, is that not correct?
That's something to do, yeah, part to do with it, yes. I just wanted to bring that up because, I've already looked into it myself and made some phone calls, and he's entitled to the money.
James, you have anything on that?
I don't dispute any of the facts that the sheriff has said. But the Department of Treasury rule is clear. I mean, it does say the word county employee, meaning an employee, not an independent contractor, not a W-9.
But if he was a contractor, or if he was a county employee prior to the separation due to the lack of funds because of the COVID crisis, would that not cover it?
It would not cover that category. If you're wanting to make an exception and try and find it, it would take more time. I will try and find a category, but no, sir, it would not change the fact of employee or non-employee. That won't make any difference. We would have to find another category that he would fit, and I don't know if other people might fit in that category also. I don't know.
It was strictly because of the budget crisis. I misunderstood what you said. We would never let him go.
But he was not employed, the stipulation is what, January 1st, 2021 to December 6th? And when was he employed?
Till October of last year, or whenever it was, we let him go after the layoff. Then we brought him back under, pay him out the commissary program.
When did he return to work under the commissary, or contract commissary?
I believe it was January this year. Pretty sure.
So for 10 months, that man worked as an employee for us, and certainly during the last number of years, to include the COVID year and the COVID downturn, because of the economy being crushed. Because of 2 months, we're not gonna, give him credit for that?
And he's checked in.
If he was an employee, I'm asking a direct question. If he was employed during that time, would he not qualify?
Two different firms have verified the answer as far as the Department of Treasury rule, the answer is no. That does not mean we cannot try and find another category. I've been instructed to do that. If we can find another category to put him in, I can try and do that.
Madam President, can we take this vote on the first one, please, so I can make another motion?
Okay, so the motion has been made to go ahead and pay the 2,000. Motion was seconded by Anton. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passed.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the county attorney to look into possible provisions for providing that, a possible source.
Only if this does not delay the premium.
It's not going to delay it, this is a separate issue.
Will there be more of those?
cases like that?
I don't know. All I can tell you is I'll get with the sheriff, I'll get the facts and see if there's a different category. Then I can report back to you if anyone else fits in that category or not. But right now, I don't know. I don't even know what category it would be.
I'm okay with that as long as it does not delay the premium pay for the rest of the employees. Okay.
So what is the motion again? What is the motion again, Chuck?
The motion is to ask the county attorney to seek an avenue or investigate the possibility of putting him in another category so that he may receive the premium pay.
Okay,
So that the employee in question may receive the premium pay.
I'm gonna go ahead and make an amendment, a motion, to expand that into giving a fair opportunity for everybody else that maybe wasn't included. And the reason I say that is because I know our deputy coroners were also not a part
I
of this.
will accept that as a friendly amendment.
So the amendment is to allow really anybody where there's some issue, yes.
Fall under the 800 hours, the deputies at the corners do, that was
Right.
the cutoff, 800 hours.
Right, but in this case, this gentleman wasn't employed as of December 6th with the county, so you can draw a line and make that distinction now. So if the coroners don't make that, but there's an exception, I just think if we're gonna make exceptions.
No, that's fair.
You see where I'm going with that?
I see exactly where you're going, absolutely.
So that's my motion, is to open it
I accept
up.
that as a friendly amendment, no need for a second.
Great.
I just want to look into, just so we can check and see.
Okay, any other discussion? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Yes, carried.
Just want to let you know some quick figures here, roughly with what's on the sheet tonight, there's about $104,000 left of ARPA funds. So if you go over the 300,000, there is a cushion here. I want to give you that.
Okay.
You know, so if you go over 45,000 to make the 300, we have room here.
So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion, we act on the second part to this, and that is the general approval of County Ordinance 2022-13, which identifies premium pay as the amount for the appropriation, with the added note that FICA, PERF, or any other associated costs that have to be paid as well are something that the commissioners will consider, and they'll do whatever action they need to take to make it work.
Second.
So my question is, are you talking about the ordinance that we have right here?
Yes.
That Sheila has, because included in that is the highway and the administrative.
Let's
Are you
just
ready?
include this for now as part of
Okay,
this,
so
and
you
then we
just-
can add to it later.
So you're doing 255 or you're doing 300?
It'd be the 300, because we can go to 300. We know it's gonna go more, maybe a little more than that, so.
So did we have a second to that?
I did.
Okay, seconded by Chuck.
Sheila, can you get an extra pen? Here. Never mind, you can have one, thank you. Because I brought one, and it's not here.
Any discussion? Any questions?
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
The discussion might be, Anton asked a question, or was it you that asked it, about the administrative fee here?
I mean, on this additional appropriation ordinance, that, I mean, it is included in that as it is written, is the highway and the administrative, but we're just doing the premium pay, we're taking that out, we're just doing that as one motion for 300,000.
Okay, so it's a separate, we're breaking that out of this
Yes.
ordinance.
Yeah, it is, the ordinance is going, there's only gonna be one ordinance at the end of the evening, but as far as finalizing the premium pay part of it, instead of 255, it's gonna be 300,000 in that ordinance.
We can do a separate ordinance for each one of them. I can rewrite them because I just have to mark your guys' votes. And
Okay.
Do we
do you
wanna,
wanna just,
You wanna vote separate on each one?
If we're gonna have a separate ordinance, I think we need to.
So this is just including the premium pay for 300,000.
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Any other
Let
questions?
me be clear, 0013, only premium pay,
So
right?
use that for that, and then new,
Yeah.
there you go.
So that means the highway and the administrator are gonna have to have their own ordinances made up. Is that delayed time by any chance?
No,
Don't they have to be published?
these are, I mean, if you make the motions to do them, it's just a piece of paperwork that's filled out that assigns a number to it. It's an ordinance and it'll have to be advertised, all three of them, but the ARPA funds are not like the normal process. We have to report them. Next month, we have to do what our report is for the last month and it reports there. We only have to notify DLGF that this is the action that was taken. So you don't have to hold like a public hearing and all of that for additional appropriation.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Quick question, and I don't need to keep cutting in here, but we've got an ordinance here to the side, we've got blank amounts that you can fill in, like the 300,000. You can do the same thing with each other, still do your vote and approve this ordinance number, all under the same ordinance, because you're filling them in.
That's what I was
Makes
thinking.
sense.
Yeah, I think,
You don't need three separate ordinances.
yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
matter to me. I think Nick was maybe asking if it needed to be separate, or do you want it separate, or?
Well, I think if we're gonna deal with three separate entities here or amounts, and we have the capacity to do it now on this ordinance.
Question real quick, do we have a motion on the table?
It had been seconded, so.
Okay,
Right.
what was the motion?
The motion was to proceed with an ordinance
Okay.
for the 300,000, for
Okay,
premium pay.
You mind a friendly amendment? You made a motion, right?
Sure.
I make an amendment that we include that we will take each item separately, however, place it under the 013 ordinance. Is that something you can live with?
Oh, yeah, either way.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now let's. Do we wanna do the administrative, separate, or do we wanna?
So we have one more part to this, and it is the method that we need to use
right.
to pay the employee. So what is the quickest and most efficient method to do that? What are our choices as far as,
We process them, we can have them done by Friday, or they get processed with payroll for next Friday. The simpler way to keep it clean when we're reporting to the government and State Board of Accounts is if it would be separate and done this week.
okay,
Okay.
well, I'll make a motion that we proceed with the auditor's recommendation to do a separate process for paying the ARP premium pay.
Second that.
Seconded by Amy. Motion made by Anton, seconded by Amy. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. So that takes care of the premium pay, right? We're done with that. Okay, we're ready to move on. So do we want to make the administrative fee separate? Do we want to make a motion for that? Include that?
And what was the administrative fee for exactly?
Larson Thornburg charges us $2,500 per month
Right,
throughout this whole process, and it continues until this money is spent and gone. They're the overseers of it, because anything that we do illegal, we have to pay it back out of county general. So that's why we're paying them, to make sure we don't make mistakes.
so the amount is kind of an odd amount if you add them 2,500 times so many months. So is there some other costs in there, or a percentage or something
Jim, how
somewhere?
far back does this go?
We've already spent 12,500 in domestic.
Also,
Well, the reason why I asked that is the amount is 8,952, which doesn't really add up to like 25,500, 75. So is there another,
Well,
Cost or-
you got the highway part in there,
Yeah.
1,610,155.92, that's where you come up with your.
Right.
yes, but I'm just talking about the, well, this one has a dollar amount written on it. It's 8952.
That's the fund.
Okay. There you go.
The
There you
administrative
go.
fee is $30,000.
Got it. That's easy then. Thank you.
So can we just not approve both of those at the same time? Maybe.
The highway and the administrative.
What was the last one we just took?
That was on the premium.
Premium pay.
The 300,000.
No, we did the administrative just after that, didn't we?
No,
No,
Not
we've
yet.
not done that one yet.
I just say. Advance.
Focus
Are you
on
making, are you making that a
Let's
motion, Amy?
No, let's just do the administrative and the highway, and then let's, going to be any changes, and it's all gonna be in the same ordinance anyway, right?
Someone want to make a motion?
Make that motion, Chuck.
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the administrative fee of $30,000
Yeah.
from the ARPA fund and the highway department for 1.6101555.92,
A second.
also from the ARPA fund.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Amy. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay,
I got one more thing, Paula.
yes.
And I said I was gonna quit, but I wanna make sure we get this right. We added $45,000 to this ordinance, so somebody check my numbers, but it should be $1,940,155.92, not $1,895,000.
Right.
What was that again?
Correct.
It is $1,940,000, $155.92.
Okay.
That wasn't the figure put in the motion.
No, that wasn't, so I make a motion that we authorize the auditor to correct the number from the previous motion.
And I just wanted to do that before it got voted on.
And we already voted on it.
The whole thing?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm good.
I second Chuck's motion. May I ask, Gary, what was that for, that $40,000?
Well, we had $255 for premium pay. We actually appropriated $300,000, so that covers the taxes.
What'd you say?
So that was the increase of the
That was the
$45,000.
increase.
Yes, and he's right. I should have caught that too, but I didn't.
Yeah, we did. The total is just the total, but I don't know. So real quick question then, what was the purpose of the motion?
The
'Cause we-
purpose of the motion, because I had stated in the prior motion, the total number of 1.8951555.92, when it really should have been 1.9, thanks to that number right there.
155.
45,000, I think.
Yeah, the $45,000 difference because of 300,000 instead of 255.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So motion made by Chuck, seconded by Nick. All those in favor? Motion carried. Moving on. Now on to new business. The 2022 compensation structure review and the committee update. Well, personally, I felt like our first committee, wage committee meeting went very well. There were a lot of great ideas brought up. I think it was good for people to have a forum to be able to voice their ideas, and I thought, I'm encouraged by it, so. Anton, you got a take on it?
I would totally agree with that. I thought it was a very good discussion. We have a number of side projects, if you will, that needed to be worked on, which we are doing. There's some that require work with Jim, some that the auditor needs to touch on, some we need to talk about or get lined up to do so. We also, about a week later, were able to reconcile old versus new. And we're able to now project costs of whatever changes we want to do down to the employee, departmental, and fund levels. So with some simple inputs, we can figure out how much it would cost to do X, Y, Z, and so on very easily. And I think that's going to help us because I know some of the discussion not only touches on base pay amounts, but also things like longevity, education. There's some other parts to this that we can kind of separate out and figure. So it'll make your jobs a little easier later on in the process, so. But there's a lot of unfinished business, and it's gonna take just a little bit of time to work through some of that.
Anybody want to add to that?
Well, I watched it on Zoom, and I appreciate your presentation. Very good. Thank you.
The only thing, probably just a heads up, because at some point, we have a couple of job description related updates, changes, some scoring probably that's gonna be needed on some new things. We may need to engage with the consultant to follow up. They do follow-up work on a per hour basis or whatever. I think that the council would need to decide if that's something we need assistance with in order to complete those. However, it's one of those things where you don't just do, here's one, do it, get charged. I think we should have like a batch where we say, here's our list, and make it efficient and quick so that we're not charged and nickel and dimed for every little question we've got, if that makes sense. So what do you think about doing a batch?
Okay, we had not discussed that, so say that again.
So, and this was in the email I sent to you and Jim, this is where people have come to us saying, well, this job description is not
Right.
up to date.
Right.
There needs to be some new language, or something's been left out. Title changes. We've got a couple of positions that we had added back in that don't have job descriptions. Like highway, for instance, we put the part-time seasonals back in the budget, and we don't actually have part-time job descriptions or scoring to go with those. So, I think Donna, in her request, she's got a new job description that'll need to be scored and formalized.
But are you proposing that we have this done by,
Yeah, I think not tonight, but I think we should maybe have some kind of consensus that we would probably want to make an efficient approach to that and have some kind of batch to submit to them for
I
completion.
have a little misgiving on spending extra money, of course.
Well, we'd have to have some way of scoring and integrating. I guess, Jim, is there another way around that, or how could we accomplish that?
If you had a company do that, they would be, really your primary source to keep it consistent. They've scored your other 150 plus jobs. I don't know there'd be another way.
So they use though, this factoring system, which is pretty standard. Is there a way that we could,
Well, we could do our best.
could we do it ourselves? I don't know.
Well, that's what my question was going to be.
We could, I think, get close, yes.
Kathleen?
I was gonna say, if they've provided us the framework of the system, I don't understand why we would need to continue to go back to them, like you said, nickel and dime every single time.
Yeah.
And then also, I know there's several counties that have also used them to create the exact same structure that we received. So why couldn't we reach out to them, because it's the whole don't reinvent the wheel, and see if they possibly have seasonal part-time positions already done and scored?
Yeah,
Because I know they'll provide that stuff to us, other agencies will, so kinda,
That's
we
kind of,
need to
yeah,
do
I
some
think we're on the
footwork
same
instead of
page
paying a
here.
company to do it.
Mhm.
so yeah, if we want to try some of those methods first, then what do you think about that?
That's fine. When did you say we was gonna have another meeting on the whole thing?
Well, the next committee meeting is the
The
29th of March. But this kind of work is going on now, we're not
Right.
waiting. So as we continue to get our list together of those items, Jim, why don't we engage with you on that? And see if we can find some resources to match things up. And then see where we're at.
I think with one question.
Yeah.
What is the timeline that we're looking at this pretty much done?
Well, we'd like to have as much committee opportunity as possible, I think, to exhaust all ideas and things to explore there. But I would imagine we'll have some additional progress March 29th. And we already have our financial capability to figure costs, which was actually the next step. So we're kind of, I would say we're kind of ahead, we're half a step ahead on two parts, if that makes sense. So we're kind of a step ahead in general. Maybe April, but probably May, if there's to be something broader done. I'm guessing. So what do you think, Polly?
I agree.
Okay.
So do we need any action on that, or?
No, I don't think
Pretty
there,
much,
no, I just wanted to bring it up because
Right.
that was an unknown as how we're gonna handle that, because it's gonna have to be done somehow, so, yeah, okay.
Okay, moving on, the circuit court employee compensation.
Okay, so we are back for the same reason we were here before. We have refigured the numbers, and Lynn, I believe, provided those to everybody. And just as sort of a talking point, I know there's been a lot of discussion tonight about fuel costs and different things, and increased pressure on the general fund. We've also been talking about the wage study, implementing that. And again, this is an opportunity to get started, to do real work towards getting to the midpoint salary level. And at this point, it would be a cost, we would be asking for an additional appropriation of $2,083. And the reason that we have been able to do this with the budget that we've got.
We're giving them back that. We've actually got that money to get back.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Yes, we're to the good.
Yeah, so we're to the good, so it would be no cost to the general fund, I apologize. I expected that to be a negative number. So, and the reason that we've been able to do this is, again, because we have cut positions and not filled them. And the only reason we were able to cut positions and not fill them is because the staff that we have is capable of handling that. We lost a full-time position, because of our inadequate compensation. I lost a very, very valuable employee. We replaced that position with a half-time position. We were very lucky with the half-time position that we found. I would not anticipate that we would be that lucky again. To be perfectly honest, we found somebody that was retiring from a law firm and just wanted a part-time job to keep herself sharp. So that is like a unicorn in the world of part-time employment. And again, I know there's a desire to do this all at once, but I would just implore you to give the offices that can do it an opportunity to do it. And we will sit down with other office heads. I think other office heads have an opportunity to do this. It's gonna be up to them if they can figure it out, but we're happy to show them kind of how we've done it. But we can get things moving forward without having to wait, and we can address some of these issues now. And I would just request that our full-time employees be moved to that midpoint salary level.
And this will be sustainable for at least 2 years. At least 2.
on
For how long?
the,
No, at least 2, at no cost to general. Right.
I have a question on that. You've got public defender one time for the 10,000.
Right.
And then COVID one time, the 1,900. So, that would be this year, but how would that be sustainable for
How
the
we
next
plan
year?
on doing that is a couple of things. One, you'll see that we gave you back $59,000. So we're pretty confident at the end of this year, we're gonna have some boots put back in. Secondly, Donna's gonna be coming up here with a proposal for hers. The rule was no general fund and no tax raises, so she's gonna have some boot that she can put in about $1,900 if you approve hers on top of that. If you don't, I also know that Sam has said that he's willing to give up to 10,000 to 15,000 out of commissary to make it work, because he wants to see other employees start getting some raises. I don't really want to take his, and I think we can do it and turn it back in, but that's something that can be guaranteed that you can look at. The other thing is that we didn't turn in our conference fees, even though we were entitled to the $2,000 when we came here the last time in November. You told us you would approve it, and then you said no. We still didn't turn it in, so you had 2 from that one, 2 from this year, and 2 from the next year. That's $6,000. So right there, we're talking maybe $1,000, not even hitting Sam's, not even hitting some of the others. So it's easily sustainable. And what I'd still do is, I really think that, we've met with Sheila, we've met with Diane and some of the others. I'd like to make it so that monies that we put back in, I get it all goes to the general fund. But if we could earmark some within the general fund of where we pitch back in, that maybe we can pitch back in and get some other offices to be able to do it too if they need a little boot. That's where I'd ask you to put it, it's your call, but yeah, we can sustain our.
Keep it
Yeah, and that's
sustainable.
what's kind of frustrating about coming back over and over and over again and begging for money. Like Lynn has our figures, but we give you an honest budget, we don't come back, and that's not to disparage anybody in this room, but we don't come back and ask for more money. We tell you what we need, and we don't try to spend it all at the end of the year so that we don't have to give it back. So Lynn, in the last several years, how much have we given back? And I understand giving back is a relative term, I mean, it's in the general fund and you're just not being asked to spend it on us, but.
And taking into account, sometimes our was low, I mean, we didn't spend as much because of COVID, but in 2019, out of the circuit court budget, I figured we gave, at the end of the year, we turned back in 48,728. That was out of the circuit court budget. Out of the commissioner court budget, which we no longer have, we gave back 17,556. In 2020, I showed that we gave back 29,975. And last year in 2021, with the cuts that we made in June, plus what we did not spend, we gave back 59,579. And a lot of that's, we didn't have jury trials because of COVID, we didn't have a lot of the expenses that we normally would have because of COVID. But that's quite a bit of chunk of change we've given back in the last 3 years.
And a lot of that was because of the position being given up.
But you gave it.
And again, it's like, we could not have done that if we did not have the staff that we have. And it is just, and I know the other office holders feel the same way about their employees, but I mean, we are really, at this point, just asking you to let us get to the midpoint at no cost to the general fund this year, and we're confident that we'll be able to sustain it next year.
You four all promised you would if I found it. I mean, that's what you told me in that transcript, if I have to replay it, and I trust your word. I think you trust mine.
I got another question, the IVE, approximately, the 4,000, what is that?
So that is also related to our participation in the Public Defender Commission program. And that is those are monies that we get as a reimbursement from the federal government for the money that we spend for indigent defense services in CHIN's cases. And that money comes from the federal government, but we get it through the Public Defender Commission. They were in the figures into the penetration rate, and they gave me an estimate, but they base it basically on the number of cases and the amount that we spend on those particular attorneys in those particular cases. So it's a pretty reliable estimate.
And reliable that happens year after year,
Yes,
correct?
yeah. Now, that does depend, on the number of cases as they go up and down, that's, our numbers are kind of on, they've leveled off, they were a little out of control for a while, of course, that would mean a bigger reimbursement, but they've kind of leveled off over the last 2 years.
And it is, for clarity, it is for E,
Yes.
not for D, so it's kind of a new area, a number, we don't normally hear that
Yeah,
section.
that's the child welfare
Okay.
stuff. And then the public defender one time, that is just a reimbursement that the general fund is going to get back out of claims that we made, that we spent out of the public defender supplemental fund for COVID doses. So we were able to access that fund, which has been very well managed, but you have to use it to supplement, not supplant, so we can't pay for things that should be budgeted out of it, but we were able to pay bonuses out of it, which we were then able to get a reimbursement for.
So from a technical, just speaking from a technical standpoint here on appropriations, the 254,285 figure that's noted as available, that includes the items at the top of the report. And in that group of top items, you've got that one-time public defender that's kind of there. And then you said the 4E, that is potentially recurring.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And then you've got COVID, which we know is one time. And then the health insurance, at least for this particular department, is paid for out of a different fund. So if we figure it up on what we need to do to make it happen, so let's say the council decided to grant the request and we need to then do an appropriation for this year, we'd have to still appropriate more than what the new cost is because the health is from another fund. The public defender is not gonna be there all the time. So we'd have to prepare some kind of a dollar amount to follow up on for appropriation.
And quite frankly,
at
I
some
mean,
point.
that public defender one time and that 4E money is going into the general fund as reimbursement. It's not something that we have in
Right,
our
on the
regular
other
wages.
side, yes.
We still need an appropriation.
Revenue
amount,
side.
But
yes.
what we're saying is
Yeah.
we have found a way to pay for it.
Yeah, we'd still need to do like an appropriation though for whatever
Yes.
technical, I don't want any surprises
Right.
that, you know,
No, you're right.
if we come back at the next meeting, it might actually be an appropriation for 20,000 or whatever that number is. Okay, just wanna make sure we're clear there.
Yes.
Well, and I'm sorry, but
Yes,
I'd like
Lynn.
to point out too, this, I did the figures based on a total year. Obviously, we do not
okay.
expect the pay to be retroactive January 1st. So if it's approved, once it finally kicks in, you're only talking probably half a year. So
Partial.
you're kind of you kind of got a partial amount. And so that's figured high because I figured it as a year. Because we started it in December.
And Lynn, you shorted yourself a little bit.
Probably
It's
so.
20.99, or essentially 21 would be your midpoint.
Yeah.
So we'd wanna make sure
Whatever, but
that cycles
it is,
through.
you know, it is figured a little bit high just because we started this back in December.
Okay.
And here we are now in March, and we figure if it was approved, it's gonna be May or June before it actually takes effect.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion that we grant the request. Now, Anton brought up a good point there that we're gonna have to fine tune this if this happens. With some different appropriations, and I don't know how you want that added into a motion, but I will make that in a motion that we grant this request.
I will second that.
So is there, a motion's been made that we grant it, seconded by Amy. My only concern is I just want this to be sustainable. And as we are looking at, I would feel so much more comfortable if we had a whole quarter down under our belt and if we saw what we're faced with as far as rising costs and everything for the rest of the year. If this was like another couple of months down the road, I would feel a lot more comfortable making a decision. Right now, it's just, I just have some questions, so, but anybody else have anything that they want to talk about?
I think the work done on this is really good. And Lynn, you've done a great job breaking this out. I also wish we could snapshot this and insert it into like May, because I would be so much more willing to support this than at this time, because we do have, I think we've made a commitment that's pretty clear to everybody that we want to do something overall. And this certainly fits into that, so there's nothing against that. But I think we still have to do a little more legwork and some due diligence on some of those items.
Isn't it just $10,000? I mean, really when it comes down to it, all the others are gonna be coming in at that amount. And if we got the boot of 2, so that puts it down to 8. And then we've got, where, you know, like I said, if we put in conference fees, that's covered there too. I mean, Sam, would you give me your money early?
I'll do whatever I can to help you all, that, personally, I think we have the opportunity to move.
I don't really wanna take this, 'cause I think we're gonna be putting money back, but, you know, if that makes you feel better.
And I do think that the financials, of course, are important, but I think, financially, I see it a little more positively, myself, and so I'm not so much concerned about that as I am making sure that we do something overall for folks and we have a system we can follow. I think if we could bottle up this cooperation and have more time to connect that through to those other departments and kind of continue working together, I think we, in the long run, would be in a better position.
I
But
think
that's just my opinion,
our
but.
staff completely understands that there's the potential that there's gonna be some fine tuning on things like the education component or longevity but it would,
This is the direction we do want to head.
it just feels like there's no reason to wait if there's no cost to the general fund.
Instead of pound it, you do it. I don't
Well,
understand.
what I'm thinking is, what would of course, I know this is premature right now because it's not close to budget time, but what would your budget be? What do you think you can hold your budget to for next year?
It's similar to what it is.
We've been given, not really given back money every year, but,
Yeah,
you know,
I know, and
and we also cut an entire commissioner's court.
Yeah, we've known about this for 6 months. We approved it already, and then we took it back from them. I personally don't like being like that, because we had made a reasonable decision based on the reasonable efforts of our court system. They've come back to us again with yet another positive work on this that allowed it. She thought there were $2,000, she didn't need it. So, I don't understand why and I have to say we, but it wasn't me, for crying out loud, turned our back on them the first time. And I'm not gonna turn my back on them this time. This is ridiculous. They did the work. They need that person in that position because records are important. If anybody remembers when the IT 2 years ago lost a hard drive, and I came in here and used my tools and found the equipment on there, found the files, but I could not recover them because I was not willing to separate the disk. I had them sent it off over to the people. That's how important these files are. And if I'm not mistaken, October was missing from that year, wasn't it? October 2016 was missing from that year. And that's something that we could be hit for legally from the state. So when they talk they need these recorders, we've done it, we retracted, they came back with yet another better offer. I don't see any need. Would you mind a friendly amendment? Sure. I make a friendly amendment that this go ahead and proceed, and then any fine tuning be authorized to be done with the judges and the auditor. Because, and then if it requires a vote, it can come back. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Will you accept it?
I will.
Well, I think that makes it a little messier, in my opinion, but I am gonna make an amendment, offer an amendment, again, just technical, because since we've not actually adopted a new system for everybody, I think that if we just have a few of the new descriptions and classifications for a couple of employees, that would be a bit of a conflict and confusing. So I would suggest that whatever dollar amounts we do it under the current kind of structure.
Yeah, we're just asking for that midpoint salary.
Yeah, it'll be dollars will be the same in the proposal, but, and I'm not gonna vote for the proposal, but I would support the amendment just for clarity, because I'd hate for us to adopt it and then it not jive with the current system, because we haven't adopted the new, if that makes sense. So my motion is to keep the dollars neutral, but make sure that we use our current system to plug those into.
As a friendly amendment, is that what you want?
that would work,
just for clarity.
yeah.
And-
What was it? Keep the dollar?
Well, so their proposal has some of the new references,
The
Comet,
education.
Pat is in there, but we've never adopted that and we don't have that as a part of our current system. So eventually we will, but I think to avoid any kind of special entries and confusion, we should stay away from that part at the moment and just focus on the dollars,
I'm
so.
fine with that, but I just wanna add also, I think people have been asked a lot, asked to give up a lot. Morale has to be low. Just seeing that people are working together and offering up and trying to help is such a great feeling. And I feel like if it's shut down, people are just gonna say, well, what the heck, you know? We've done, we're working together, we're, collaborating, trying to come up with, and I know Lori has actually offered up, get with us and we will try to help you find ways to do it too. So I just think for the good, in all areas of this, it's almost April, so last of March, May.
Madam Chair, I call for a vote.
Okay. All those in favor? For, opposed? And it's not because I don't want, I just would feel more comfortable. That's fine.
I feel confident.
When we get the money, it's not gonna be an issue, so don't worry about it. We'll find it.
Only thing I'm really concerned about is hold that
We'll hold her down.
budget, cause we've worked a long ways.
We have, and like I just said, anything that's put back in by us and others, I seriously would love to meet with the other office. I came down, talked to Sheila and Diane and some of the others. I want all the courthouse employees to get raises, not just ours. And the fact is, if we can have just a little bit of hope that if we put back in and we don't spend it on things that, okay, we could, but I think the council will work with us. Let's put it in here. There's other offices, when maybe somebody leaves, they can reassess, that's up to the department head, if they think they need 5, then they may wanna keep 5, but if maybe they can do it on 4 the same way then they may be able to make it so their people get in, and nobody wants the general fund to be dead, we've worked too hard to get it where it's at, we get that.
And the other thing, and I didn't even bring this out, but, will this cause comp time problems with your?
We are good on comp time.
We are good.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is just as we're kind of future looking, the other rounds of ARPA money, that could be, I feel like, used strategically to address,
I guess the only thing that concerns me on that, it would set us up and then when it's gone and we couldn't sustain it, that's my.
Sure,
my
no, I
point.
completely understand that, but I'm saying if you're looking for something to cushion that transition, it can be used for raises. So it's just something to consider.
But happy to meet with others.
So we-
talk to them, go forward.
We appreciate the commitment to help others, and I think that needs to continue, because our committee work is not ending.
Well, and that's why we
We're
did
still
the
working on
meetings.
committee work.
That's kind of what we thought was coming out of that, and so we wanted to kind of give everybody a potential roadmap on what they can look at and see it, so.
I think like last time, what we'll do is we'll work with Lynn and try to reconfirm where all those points are gonna fit, and then you'll review that, because we'll need to have an appropriation for the next
Yes,
meeting.
Right.
Okay, so we'll reevaluate that part.
Right, thank you. Just remember that appropriation is gonna be an amount, okay? It's not gonna be.
But if they're,
Thank you.
so if they're using the same pools of money that they have, all we're really doing is transferring the line items, we're not doing additional appropriations.
Well, it normally, if everything at the top of the description was out of their budget, that would be correct. But part of that includes a part that's out of edit. The other was the public defender. Technically, if you look at just general fund and the line items, we'll have to take some kind of action to formalize that. Even though some of this will come back in on the revenue side, and one of them was out of another fund, there'll be some kind of additional appropriation.
Line 3 is the general fund.
Yeah.
Those are
The
reimbursements to the general fund.
So we'll have to advertise a public hearing for the April meeting then.
So should we go ahead and make a motion to have an addition, to advertise? Because if it needs to be done for April, you see where I'm going with that?
I do, I
Okay.
just don't wanna have I'm having flashbacks to November, I just.
Yeah, I know, I mean, that's, you know, yeah.
And they gave me their word and I'm counting on it just like I gave you mine, so.
So should we, estimate maybe high at the moment? Is that okay?
For the last three.
Well, and then that
Public
savings to the,
for-
Generally, some kind of dollar amount to advertise, because if we don't,
16?
I would say 22, do you say?
22.
okay,
And I don't know what fund, Anton, that savings from the health insurance.
it'd be edit.
Okay.
So did you make a motion, Emma?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we advertise properly, yes, up to 22,
22,000?
yes,
22,000.
out of the general fund.
Did you say 26? What did you say?
22.
Oh, I apologize. I heard something else, sorry. I'm old, what do you expect? My laugh here, you won't have to deal with it.
Okay,
Well, Nick did.
yeah, seconded. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, recorders, are we, no.
Hello. So, as you know, I'm here to request a full-time employee. Right now, it's just myself in the office. Along with the written request, you should have some office statistics, plan for my 2022 goals, and then there's also a projection for a full-time employee, the costs involved. I did speak with Mr. Bryan, just to get some clarification. If I were granted a full-time employee, I could use some of the part-time funds that I had, because I lost a part-time employee. I could use some of those towards a full-time. And I crunched the number, because then I wouldn't have to rehire for that position. I crunched the numbers and I could comfortably, contribute, I think, 10,000 towards that.
So you had two
I had two,
part-time,
which I was paying out of my perpetuation fund. Yes.
this is just a throwing it out there, cause I know you've had some difficulty, having the part-time, cover when you needed them to. I mean, how much of a burden would it be if you had the one full-time and no part-time? Would that create an extra burden, or?
Well, so the current part-time that I still have, plan has been that she's going to work till the end of the year. So I don't want to just get rid of her.
And she's not interested in going to the full-time position?
Well, she is the one who was full-time that retired,
Oh,
and she took the part-time. So,
So the other, your other part-time is gone,
yes,
and if the veteran is still there and she's still willing to work through the end of the year, could you not just work her more hours, or is she available to work the additional hours?
she could maybe work some more hours, but
To cover more time?
But even working, so she could work a max of 4 days a week. You're saying not do a full-time employee.
You just for discussion at the moment,
But-
yeah.
Really, I need a full-time. I mean, there's a big difference in a part-time and a full-time.
Yes,
There just is.
there is.
Just like I said, the two part-time, which when I was asked to get rid of a full-time,
which,
I thought the two part-time would, maybe fill in that gap, but it It's just not the same.
Because on paper, that looks like it
It
would
looks like
work,
it
but
would be
it
the
doesn't.
same, but
Yeah.
it's
It
not
looks
quite
great,
the
but
same.
no, yeah.
It just
That's
isn't
right.
for, a multitude of reasons. So, I mean, while I'm sure the part-time would maybe pick up some more hours, which she would still have plenty if I contributed the 10,000, there would still be enough left in there for her to work part-time. But then I would also have a full-time, which would put me in the position like I was before, a full-time and a part-time.
So if you, and this is again for discussion here, your total part-time amount at the moment
16,000.
is about, 16 to 17,000. If you had a full-time, then you're talking 30, whatever. That difference, even if temporarily you used your perpetuation fund, it seems to me like even with the projects you have planned, that is doable to a certain point. Is that accurate or?
Well, I don't know if it's doable, and I actually
Okay.
met, so I gave you guys some figures on
Yes.
the project. Well, Friday I met with, my software vendor, and they added another project onto what I had sent you, so it's gonna add onto that cost. So the thing is, I just don't know, if that's gonna add 30,000 to that, I don't know. So
Okay.
I don't want to use that perpetuation when I don't know how much. And like I said, that's the livelihood of my office.
Mhm.
Other than my wages, all I get from the general is $1,230. That's it. So everything else I pay for. So I have to be careful with what I do with that.
Well, quite frankly, I was kind of surprised back when we did do the cuts
Yeah.
that you went just part-time. I assumed that you were possibly just gonna move the full-time over to that and then
Right.
just do it, but I think you wanted to be prudent with it.
I did, yes.
And try it out, if you will. But obviously that's not working,
Right.
but if it's gonna branch back out and come into the general fund, that's my biggest concern at the moment. Because that would be additional commitment back on. We also took a lot of other commitments out of general in that process, and I'm sure that, other departments would probably love to have those back too, just being honest. So, I don't know, that's the part that kind of concerns me on the general.
My thing is, I feel like that we should never cut your full-time. I mean, take away part-time, whatever, but with you being there by yourself, you don't have anybody when you have to miss a day or, like you had a doctor's appointment. I believe and you were able to, didn't you have to close the office?
There was one day that I did
Yeah,
that,
and
And usually, I can work it out with full-time. The part-time, she will come in, I try to arrange that where she can do that. But like meetings, because I try to do her schedule a month in advance. So, it's just hard to change that on short notice.
I would be more apt to, we should have I felt like we should have eliminated your part-time and kept her full-time. That's what I would have liked to have seen. You've got such an important office and to have to shut it down for anything, I just think that's a little disconcerting myself.
Madam
Yes, Nick?
Chair, Madam Recorder, for the rest of this year, to make something happen for you, could you set aside your part-time and take the full-time on and fund the full 16,000 towards the full-time? I know it's still gonna keep you short, but at least you got, and then at budget time, I think it would be our responsibility to take a serious look at giving you another, our part-time for the next year. I think we may have done you a disservice because you're the only office that came down to just one full-time person. And we've got offices outside the courthouse that are not constitutional offices that have full-time staff. And I made my point back some months ago, and I'll not go through that again. But you have my support tonight, however you want to address this, because I think we owe you full-time staff.
My only concern with that is, like I said, my existing part-timer is to just let her go, without any discussion with her. And I know she's listening to this. I mean.
Is she not willing to go full-time?
Well, like I said, she retired and
So you said you had two part-time people.
I lost one of them. She left for health reasons. And it's been discussed with the current part-time that she was not going to stay after the end of this year. So it would be, the right time to bring someone in new and trained who was going to stay long-term.
And if you brought somebody in new, wouldn't there be quite a bit of a savings?
It would be a cost savings,
Cost
because the
savings.
current one would have she has her longevity, so there would be that also.
How much do you need to put a full-time, with what you can get,
The 10,000.
the 10,000 you need?
I think Mr. Ryan had, it was gonna be about 17,000 or something, I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. Cause I wouldn't be able to probably start them till the end of April, just because by the time you advertise, interview, I have a conference to go to, so, it would be the end of April, at least before I would even be able to get somebody in the office. That was not including like health or anything like that, I was just going off straight.
So,
Wages and FICA.
How much would that put you in a bind if we waited till July?
Till July?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna be doing what I'm doing now.
I mean, would it put you in a big bind? What I'd really like to see, before we put anything in general fund, I would love to see a half a year to where we can see where we're at. That's what I'd really like to do. But I know, and I appreciate you giving your full-time up to begin with, I do appreciate that, but I just wonder how much of a bind you'd be in if we could consider that in July instead of now.
I mean, like I said, it's just gonna be, I'm just gonna be doing what I'm doing now, I'm making it, yes, it's.
But I think we'd be better if we know where was that on general fund in July than we would now. And the only reason we did down the other one, because it didn't come out of general fund.
Right,
That was
I understand
my whole thing, so, but.
And you could, like I kind of touched on here earlier, you could, now that the other person is not there, if your existing person or remaining person is available and willing to work more hours part-time, that could happen, right? Because you do have some capacity already approved to do that. It's just a matter of scheduling and how many dollars are available.
That's what I'd like.
If you need an extra day covered or 2 more days, or I think there'd be some resources kind of already there without any action from us. But the real bind is gonna be, the end of the year and the new year. So there'd have to be some kind of decision, which, we'll have budget hearings and things like that, but at the moment, I would think that there's already, a method to at least continue with higher capacity with no special action at the moment.
Well, I mean, guys, I'm gonna be frank tonight. Here you have a full-time recorder, 10 o'clock, she needs to go to the restroom, you lock the door of the recorder's office for your staff, which is only her, to go to the restroom. Now, that's probably crazy, but I'm thinking we've done her an injustice by taking her full-time staff, and now she's come to us with, I believe, as good a program as we've given to anybody. And I believe now, I would like to act upon it. Now, if you guys vote it down, that will be y'all. But I believe that, I make a motion that we grant her request. However you want to detail that, fine, put that in, whatever. But I believe that she has a legitimate need here, and I think we owe that to our recorder.
Oh, I believe she got a legitimate, I'm not arguing that, I'm just arguing, we just now worked into where we're our head above the water, and I think that we could tell a lot more about it in July than we can now. But that's just me.
Your part-time, how often does she come in? I mean, like a couple days a week or?
Once a week, or, well, it depends, maybe once a week, maybe, like, soon it's gonna be 4 days a week, it just, I stagger it depending on the need. Could be twice a week, depends.
Here's a question, our reporter gets ill, God forbid, she gets ill. Is she gonna be able to bring in for part-time staffing? And can the part-time staff do everything that the job is required of in your office?
Well, yes, she can, yes.
Well, she can.
But you can't do it, you can't do it 35 hours a week.
Right, she can't do it every day.
But what do your part-time people make?
Right now,
Yes.
she makes 12.634 an hour.
12 hours?
Because of her longevity, yes, she makes more.
Do we need a second?
And she
I don't-
would
Oh, yeah.
go
No.
full-time until
No.
December?
Okay,
Would she want to, or no? No, just a few more hours.
Nick has made a motion to grant
Her request.
her request. Shaka seconded. Anybody else have any questions?
I'm just doing the math real quick here, bear with me.
Tell me again, where are what is anticipated of this to come out of general fund? Is it on this, is it this?
Well, no, it's not on that, that's the total I had, with wages stipend per, the 25, that was
So that's for
approximate.
the year or for the rest
For
of
the
this?
rest of this year.
Rest of this.
And I said I could contribute 10,000.
Okay,
I have a question.
10,000,
yes.
Do we know of any other constitutionally elected offices that have just the elected official and no full-time employees? Are there any others?
In our county,
I'm sorry?
in our county.
I didn't think so.
And that 10,000 is from,
My part-time funds, from the part-time that I lost.
That you
would've been
lost.
hers.
okay.
And what is the total, is that what you're working on, the total amount?
No, I wasn't, I think her amounts are probably accurate.
She has a grand total of 25,000, if you take.
But
10 off-
then take 10 off.
Take
of
10 off of that,
Yeah.
are we looking at $15,000?
Somewhere around there.
Okay, and that would put them in with their benefits.
Well, that's not health included. Health is not included in that, no.
Yeah,
$7,400 package.
and it'd be you're essentially just restoring, the same pay levels and things that were in place prior to the budget cuts. Because it was a level D position
Yes.
and all that. And I would recommend, again, like we did with the judge's request, I know you made reference to a new job category in the request, but I think we should stick with the current system and follow that for this year until it's changed. But I think the dollars, though, were based on current.
I asked payroll, so I wasn't sure.
Got it. So whatever follows the current would be what would be adopted.
Did you, I don't think I quite heard your answer, but I'm pretty sure he asked, would you be willing to just step up that part-time to a full-time and then at budget hearings, hear what's going on? Because at that point, you'd still have a full-time and a part-time. And I know you tried to get rid of the full-time and took the two part-times, but I'm just trying to see what you think is best.
Current part-time to full-time?
No, ma'am.
No, what?
Hire a new full-time, you have two part-time positions, yes?
Yes,
One is not filled, right?
that's correct,
We get rid of that and move it to a full-time position.
yes,
Full-time and a part-time, so you still have only two employees, but one would be a full-time position. And
yes,
then in a budget hearing, could address it for next year, is that something?
yes, that.
Because I think that's
Kind of
what
what you're
I don't think I got the answer.
asking.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I'm
what she's
asking.
asking.
That's what you're asking, see,
Yes.
why, when I asked you that, why didn't you tell me?
She was a whole person.
I'm sorry, you wanted to keep that.
And
See, it is time for me to retire.
will the halftime stay then at the end of December?
No, no.
So it's just that,
The end of this year is it.
so then it would be two full-times.
No, just one full-time.
Well, it'd be you and the new
including
hire.
you,
Oh,
it would be
yeah.
two full-time. So I mean, that's
So
a
that'd be-
possibility
Yeah, it would be-
that, at that point, eliminating the part-time and then just you and, and one other full-time, then there would be two full-time positions in that.
Right.
I mean, that's a possibility,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah.
And
Okay,
did you need to make us add an amendment to the motion?
Well, my only amendment would be to just refer to current structure, terminology and that kind of thing, and not the new,
A friendly, do you wanna make that as a friendly?
whatever you wanna do with your
If I'm
amendment.
gonna stop it and say yes.
Yes.
Okay,
There's no need to drag out 4 different motions.
so motion has been made and seconded to,
With the friendly amendment from Anton.
with the friendly amendment from Anton.
And that's to adopt it as presented, which we'd have to do an appropriation from the general fund to make up the cost.
Right.
Right,
Of
ready?
15,000, is that right?
Right, if you take the 10,000.
Well, and then the insurance will have to come out and add it.
Insurance.
So you're looking at 22.5. Yeah.
Yeah, if we did that, I'd rather it just stay with the perpetuation, at least for the current year, and not incur any general fund, so I'm not in support of this, but I totally agree that there needs to be some kind of recalibration here, but I just,
And we can't table it because we have a motion on the floor, okay.
Clear my thinking here.
I need
You not only
I need
gave
to
us a
think.
full-time employee, but you've been paying out of your perpetuation fund the part-time employees.
Yes, I pay for the part-time down in my perpetuation.
I'm sure I call for it.
All in favor? Opposed?
No, I think I wanna make
So
another
now what do we
motion.
do?
The auditor.
What was
no action taken,
it, 2 to
it's
4?
tied,
So is it tabled then?
it's just nothing changes.
Jim,
And I don't.
Who seconded that?
Again,
We have-
it just at this time,
You did?
we worked hard to get this down like this. And that's the only reason, and we'll see, we ought to know by July, I asked him long ago, so,
Ask Jim.
Yeah, Jim,
okay?
I hate to bother you, pardon me for interrupting, but in the Indiana code, it states that if the council goes to a tie, and there's not a tiebreaker, that we can go to the auditor and ask for a vote.
No way.
I am totally unaware of that, it's only the council and
It's Title 36.2, I think.
I'll try and look, but I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know of any provision like that.
I think that was a question I had one time ago and I never got that answer.
So,
No action
ties that
change.
it was 3 to 3.
Right.
Who was your favorite? Because I didn't see that.
It was,
I voted for.
Four.
yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
And the reason I did that is just because I'm concerned about not having another full-time.
That's fair, that's fair.
And, I am concerned about
But
the money
if I
coming
had
out
to
of.
tie, if I had to break the tie, I would vote
If there's a
yes.
Rubik's Cube that we can use,
I know.
it's not easy, it really is.
Okay, on to the next, probation department.
I came before you last month, and you told me to come back this month. The argument, and I think I gave you, you should have gotten a new, form of how we were gonna pay for this. And again, all of this is out of project income, none of this comes out of general fund whatsoever. It's 2 positions, it's the administrative assistant position that we were asking for the raise in. Last time I gave you some figures, obviously they're down this time, because last time when I gave you the figures, it was up to that date. Obviously, a month has gone by now and they didn't get the raise, so these are as up to date. Their salaries have never been out of general fund, and so the general fund is not the issue. The big thing, and I think I sent Amy and Chuck kind of the different things that Kevin does for the office, all the coding, and tonight even, we got on the computer, we had to change it, because there's a new law now for home detention if you're a domestic violence and victim notifications, so we had to be able to track that. Tonight during the meeting, he changed the computer for an attribute so we can track it and we can do it. If we did not have Kevin to do these things for us, we would have to hire it out, and it would be much more higher amount than what we're asking for him.
You were talking about, changing actually his job description,
And I
right?
sent a copy of that to everybody, and I sent an addition to Merck's job description as well.
Donna, is this the same request you had last time?
Yes, it is.
We turned it down?
You turned it down.
I think we took,
I don't know if we actually,
we didn't, I
Took
think if
action.
we didn't have the,
It wasn't, they didn't have it, so you asked her to provide the,
right,
have it ahead of time.
We have the money already in the different funds. We have $10,000 we can use in 1122. We have $1,000 we can use in 1125 for the increases. Next year, project income at the beginning of 2021 was 59,000. At the end of 21, it was 80,000. So it increased. We're really trying to do a good job of getting all the project income in there. So there's $20,000 that was not there. So we'll continue to do this. I've got an actual transfer too. You guys know we try to do grants to help supplement what we do in the office, and there's always grants, and I need to talk to actually Kathleen, with the new law. And victim notification, we always look for grants to try to help out the different departments. And the bottom, we cannot find a position for Kathy, we cannot find a person to take Kathy's old position. Therefore, right now, there is $1,926 that will never be used for insurance, for health insurance on that position, because there was nobody in that position at that time. If we even put it up, because like we had talked before about the medium point for that position, we're only gonna spend $25,000 in there instead of 30. So the extra salary and the extra FICA and perk this year that will guarantee, because we don't have a person in the office to pay them, there's gonna be a total of $8,261.18 that will not be used in the general fund. So whatever department it's just not gonna be used out of the general fund. The total is, $8,261.18.
so these two positions you're, asking for raises for, both of those are grant positions, paid out of grants?
Grants and project income.
Okay. And I think you stated, at the last month, that they are aware that, if the grants go away, then.
Oh, well, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just would be all of us. Yeah.
so go
I'd
ahead.
just like to say, I've known Donna for 28 years, and she runs a tight ship, and I appreciate her. I'm gonna make a motion, it's her money, I make a motion that we grant her request.
I second that. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? What were you wanting to say, Anton?
So just for clarity, we've got a couple things going on here. One of them is just general increases in pay based on the study, it's some new targets. But then you also have the reconfiguration of the community corrections officer position to include kind of the database, IT work, that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what I kind of said, and if we can kind of maybe keep that separate, because, and I said, Kevin had interviews, the next person, if they do not have his expertise, I don't think it's why, you should not give that to that person. So,
There's
Okay.
just, so have that separate.
So how would you do that then?
You can do it.
Well, I separate it.
Right.
Again, my concern is jumping ahead here on the figure, the raise parts. I don't mind reclassifying his position and having appropriate amount to help increase for that. But, you know, that position is currently at 17.2 plus $5 or whatever that is. I'd be more inclined to go with that one change in this case, but not on the rest. But I don't know if that serves your purpose or helps you any, but that's just where I'm at on it. But if you want it separate, then I think Nick, the motion would have to be adjusted to do that, or rescinded or changed.
Cause we don't wanna, yeah, like you said, I mean, we don't want to have that pay. And then if, you know, he would leave, then somebody else that came in and didn't have that, like you said, that expertise, he didn't want to pay them for. So, I mean, how would we separate, I mean, make sure that
Could
didn't
just state it in
happen?
the motion probably, I'm guessing, but.
And this is, you're not wanting anything out of the general fund, then,
Correct,
and you think it's sustainable?
yes.
And if it's not with the grants on, then they understand that.
And Tom, did you wanna add a friendly amendment to that motion?
I'm not sure what that would be, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Is there a way for Donna to just kind of address it internally if that position were to be open at some point, just make a determination that that particular position would just not be filled if there was not a person that had Kevin's credentials, but.
Yeah, you could,
We could do it that way. If Kevin would leave, then I could come back and say, hey, I don't think this, or I need to have something else.
like freeze it.
Yeah.
Well, and that probably should be in a motion though, you know, just so it's on the record.
Right.
But,
So,
but that
since
would,
we have a
if that's what you would do, then
Right, right,
you know, that can be
right, because it
incorporated in.
wouldn't be fair, and, yeah.
so we have a motion,
Got a motion second,
And
and Tom,
second.
if you wanna add that? friendly
so
amendment?
are we making that a separate, motion, or is that an amendment?
It's mind-boggling. So I'll make a motion,
You'd have to make an amendment.
Yeah,
a motion to amend to separate the reclassification of the community corrections officer position from this motion. So if it gets seconded and voted on, then that would leave the administrative part and the raise for the existing position.
Okay.
And I'm saying raise, I'm referring to the study raise, not the $5 for the reclassification, if that makes sense.
So it's the $5 added is what we're.
We're separating that out because that's a part of reclassifying,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
that makes sense to me, yeah, so what we're just voting on is the database administrator thing for $5 and, for that, for the $5 an hour, that's it, and then this, hopefully, I'm gonna request then too for the others to go to that mid-range or the, what we have, so there's gonna.
Let's vote on this first.
And again, if
And
this,
all out of grant, all out of project income, nothing in general fund.
right, again, so if it gets seconded, then essentially, if that passes, then the raises to the midpoint for your administrative assistant and the community corrections officer position as it is now
Right,
would go up, they'd be granted. But that would then leave, there'd still have to be action on reclassifying the community corrections officer position to incorporate in his added duties and the additional $5 per hour for that part of it. Is that correct?
yeah, if that's the way you wanna do it that way, that's fine. I mean,
Either way, I'm not gonna vote for either one of those, but I'm offering the amendment,
Yeah.
it's confusing,
Yeah.
to clarify, just to help this out, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, just,
okay,
and then in that motion, we can mention the freeze or whatever, however you wanna do that part of
Okay.
it, but keep it separate, essentially. So that's my amendment in a roundabout way, so.
Is it clear to everybody?
No, but that's never stopped us.
I'm not restating it, let's put it that way.
Joe?
So the original motion was made by
So
Nick.
that's not raises on the rest of the people,
Okay,
Who seconded
the
it?
office, right?
We need a second, though,
motion was made by Nick,
on the amendment.
so, I mean, on just the amendment?
Amy had seconded the original motion, so it's on the floor, but the amendment does not have a second.
Second.
Okay.
You wouldn't need a second if you took it as a friendly amendment.
I thought I did.
That's what I thought you did too.
It's not, it's separate.
Okay. We got a second.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I call for a vote.
All those in favor?
Now, this is the amendment.
This is the
Yeah,
amendment.
amendment first.
Motion carried. That was just for the amendment,
Yes.
is that correct?
Right, again, wage study only, wage study adjustments only to the existing position, separating out the reclassification, so.
Okay.
I guess that was a simpler way of putting it.
Madam Chair, I call for a vote on the regular amendment.
And that was made by,
The original motion as amended would need a vote.
And now you're asking for a vote on the amended motion.
Amended motion, okay. You sure?
Yep.
Yes, we did the amendment first.
I wasn't parliamentarian for 4 years, you know.
that was,
Then I
so
call
we
for a
just
vote on
voted on that. Okay,
That was the amendment.
okay, tell us, Madam was set everybody straight, because
We have
everybody.
approved both of them 6-0.
Yes.
With the clarification on the classification and keep it separate and to grant the request to be paid from the grant funds and project income, and the $5 freeze will come back and request one from her. And she replaces.
Right. So now I guess I would request that you approve that $5.
So, well, we need to vote, though, on the original motion that's amended. So that's our final action for this.
All those in favor? Opposed? 5-1.
By the way, Jim, it's in here under IC 3-13-1-12. Tie-breaking vote, we can, the chairman has the right to appoint somebody to tie-break it. In the past, underneath that, it was in the county council stuff, it was underneath.
No, but with one exception, you were right, it's in 36-2-513, this is specific, so it has to be the majority vote. So there was no majority, you're saying you're wanting the chairman to appoint.
No, it's too late, it's already over.
Right, but clearly, I mean.
But there's two ways we could go.
There's two ways, but the one where you're at is purely the majority. If you want in the future, appoint someone, that's fine.
It should be something we keep in mind anyway.
Okay, so from what I understand, it passed, it's gonna be separate, everything, the first two things were approved, correct?
Yeah, so the raises to the midpoints for the existing positions and the vacation of the other, that part's all good. The final step is reclassifying the position. I'm gonna make this motion that we proceed in reclassifying the community corrections director or officer position to include the database related duties that he's taken on. And with that, the $5 amount per hour that goes with that change.
Motion on the table, seconded by Chuck. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Make it aware that we've been up here 2 hours now, and unless this list is gonna be shorter, perhaps a 10 or 15-minute break would be nice.
Can we make it 10?
Anybody think about how long is this gonna go? Do we have short reports or long reports?
The rest of it should be.
The rest of it should go fairly quickly.
No, I'm not asking you, I'm asking the ones who are going to be coming up here. Yours will be short?
CASA is off the agenda, but I was asked by the CASA director to say one sentence.
All right, I'll hang in there, but if it goes, if I get up, just.
So are you,
stand.
okay, all right,
If I
so
get up,
we're
just
going to
don't-
continue, let's get this, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Auditor and treasurer.
Donna also had a transfer.
Oh, yeah, would we,
I think that was pretty
Okay.
straightforward, maybe we should just take action on that, right?
all right, the transfer of funds, let's go ahead and take action on that. Everybody got the transfer of funds?
Okay.
I'm
We're
gonna
going to
go,
take action on that first.
I'm gonna go ahead and make
It's pretty
a,
straightforward.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we proceed with the transfer as presented, which transfers $9,240.80 from fund, and can we transfer between two funds?
Is this done in a minute?
Okay. 9153 Justice Partners. Line item 37000 to fund 2100 adult probation user fees. 0890 reimbursement.
Motion made, do I have a second? Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, you want me to- I gotta keep writing.
There we go.
So what we've got is, $28,193 to use. What we're asking is to reinstate a full-time person. This is coming from the part-time money from the auditor, and then, $12,892 from Fund 1150.
So is that, 12,892, is that a one-time? I mean, once that money is gone, it's
Yes.
gone, is that correct?
That is gone.
In other words, you're adding that, it would be really on the general fund then for next year, right?
Am I what, I'm sorry?
That would add the 12,892 to the general fund for next year.
Yes, I think that's how that,
Again, you guys had left me the $15,301 in my budget. I cannot find anybody that wants to come in for the technical and payroll and insurance. This was a way to offer to put a full-time position in the treasurer's office to again, offer up the funds. The one-time fund, it builds a little bit. The only thing I'm reserving out of it is our next thing on the agenda for the 4,000 for our asset management plan. This will replenish, but not like this a year. So again, we wouldn't be able to use that or offer that next year.
So, I mean, we're unsure whether it would be sustainable. Is there anything, I mean, like in the way of, like your part-time, I mean,
I don't have a part-time. I don't have someone that works 28 hours a week. I have a seasonal person.
do you just have seasonal?
I just have one seasonal and I have one full-time person.
And so this proposal maintains your seasonal help, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes. In order to collect and run the office as we have been, we need to reinstate my full-time position.
How much is in your budget for the seasonal?
That would be $8,005 per year. So back when we did the adjustments in 2021, that position, your full-time was cut. And then there was a proposal following up, an idea to avoid the unemployment for that individual and retain that,
Right,
but then give up, we wouldn't do the part-time with the auditor, which is kind of like this touches on.
right.
And then you were also not gonna do the seasonal at that time. So it's the same type of proposal, but it keeps the seasonal.
Yes.
Does that sound accurate? Okay, got it.
You said seasonal is how much?
8,005.
And in order to get back to the way we run the office and have our settlement the week after, we need another full-time person.
So would you, I mean, back to, if you had the proposal like you did before, where you gave up your, I mean, you got your full-time person, but you gave up your seasonal, I mean, would you be willing to do something, consider something like that?
I mean, this year it's covered. I mean, I believe the office needs staffed, and that's what it took in order to balance the millions of dollars that we have. The treasurer's office did not have a write-up in the audit. We matched everything. Not one write-up. That's what it takes. I'm not asking for raises. I'm just asking to be staffed.
I guess the only concern I have is just that one time, you know, how that would be covered.
So $12,000 for next year is what's stopping?
That's just, I mean, I'm just talking out loud.
Could that not come from the ARPA money?
I'm not sure that's our call, that's more commissioners that have control of the ARPA money.
You might ask the county attorney, do you know, Joe?
Well, I mean, the question is it's a yes or no answer. No, can you directly take ARPA money, put it in the general fund? No.
But you can pay from that.
Under retained recovery, if the commissioners decide not to spend money for anything else, say highway or whatever, you can use ARPA money to pay bills, meaning you could pay $8,000 worth of bills or 10,000 or 20, whatever the case may be. That money now is being paid, therefore it leaves the same amount in the general fund. So that's one option as far as retained recovery, that you pay in essence your 2022 bills from lost revenue, but then your general fund builds up, and then that allows you money, or if you're saying 8 or 10 or whatever you want to use, that would have to be the option.
So on Fund 1150, just to touch on that part if I could, we currently pay a little bit out of that towards one of the full-time auditor positions. Is that
3,000.
correct? 3,000 and some change. So we have kind of a commitment going on there just to make sure we have that on the radar. But you still have a balance in the fund of
That's 17,900.
17, yeah, here it is, yeah, 17,932. So there would be, at least for a temporary period of time, there'd be some funds there that could be used. I liked the original proposal last year, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I supported that, and I still support that.
We were told that no one else had the opportunity to do that, so it was voted no.
Yeah, and
But that was last year, this is a little bit, I mean, we have changed somewhat.
yeah, that proposal included not doing the seasonal and not doing the part-time auditor and, but gaining a full-time position. And I would vote for that definitely. But the seasonal is still in this proposal. So I don't know, that's the difference for me at least. I like the creativity on the 1150 fund because then even with the seasonal out, then there wouldn't be any general fund impact, at least temporarily, because you can't use the 1150 forever. But I think it'd be a step in the right direction.
So.
Tell me what you think about that, just food for thought here.
If we can keep our seasonal until we do settlement this year,
Okay,
and then what's left over can go back to the general, and then next year, we won't have a seasonal, we'll use a full-time person instead.
Final settlement.
I don't know, we've never been shorthanded like this during the May collection. And here we are in March, and
In past years, what is the average for settlement? What is it?
we would do it the week after.
and how soon if,
That doesn't align with the auditor's office either, does it? Don't you have to do it within a certain amount of time of each other?
I have till June 20th. And usually we do it around anywhere from the 17th to the 19th of May is when we normally do it. We're usually either the first or second person to do settlement. But if we don't have the staff, because you have certain orders you have to do stuff in.
I'm sorry, I'm tired and I don't feel great. Is this the same thing that we had talked about earlier when we met? I was thinking a lot more clear early in the day.
how soon would you, if we did grant the request, then you would hire as soon as you could to fill a full-time position
Yes,
at that point?
we would advertise it immediately, because the thing's gonna be, anyone we hire at this point, they're not gonna be completely ready for May.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
That first window, that person that we lost, I mean, she collected usually $4 to $4.5 million in that window for us.
Okay,
So that's a very important position that we just lost.
So, so are you saying that you would be, agreeable to, if we did the full-time, have your seasonal for May and then not have it for the fall?
Right. If that's how I need to do it, to get a person, because what happens also is, our seasonal person, we only have one because we need them at certain times. And we use that time up in those times. So when Shelley goes on vacation, Shelley's sick, it leaves me.
well, so if you do keep the settlement for May, so you're not disrupting that process.
Well, I can't
The seasonal,
say that, if, settlement may be more towards the end of May, into June, because this person isn't gonna be trained like the person that left.
no guarantee for sure, but at least definitely by June.
Yes.
So that part's good, but you're saying keep the seasonal so you're not disrupting your spring installment collection.
Right, because that's a very,
Yes, and that makes sense. Bring a full-time online and start getting that going.
Yeah.
So then, just to use kind of simple math, half of your seasonal would be saved back, so there'd be about 4,000 there. The auditor would be 15,300, because we would not have that part-time, so there's 19,300. And then you have, you're proposing about 12 to 13 out of Fund 1150. That, plus we're not even in a full year here because we're already 3 months in, so that that
Right.
12.3, there'd be more capacity perhaps to finish out the year there.
Right.
It seems to me like we're awfully close to even, from a general fund standpoint with that
Right.
kind of proposal.
They wouldn't get benefits for 90 days.
Okay,
So
true,
that's
true,
gonna-
okay.
But Anton, the question is, how much would come out of county general for 2023 to maintain that position?
Right, so 23 is a different animal, at that point, because 1150, that's really where the difference would
Right.
probably be, because that won't be there.
But then if we got rid of the seasonal and just had the,
You still wouldn't have that,
you
cause
would
that
have
would,
the 8,000 that off of that.
yeah, you'd still have the same difference, but it'd be not as good because the 1150 part would be gone.
Right.
Which is how much, 17 something?
Well, they're committing 13 about,
13,000 around.
So I would be able to give right over 8,000 of that.
yeah, so, I mean, it's definitely doable through the end of this year. But then a lot can happen, of course, between now and January with budget hearings and that kind of thing, but,
Mayor,
I don't know.
I just want to point out one thing, that when we asked everybody to tighten belts, and everybody did just an excellent job doing that, there were some unforeseen things there that we weren't aware of, and some of those that we can try and take care of, we can try. Such as an error like, and it's not an error, it's just an unknown like this. You see what I'm saying? I think this is reasonable. If the treasurer's office, if we actually had to put numbers on the most important offices, this would be in the top 5. Okay?
Let me just share an email I have. This is from State Board of Accounts to me, copied Sheila. I thought it would be in the best interest of Owen County, since you were in office during the audit period. It was your reconcilement to financials that resulted in the county being able to have an unmodified opinion. So if I had not balanced and done my job, they would not know the status of the county. That is from State Board of
Yeah,
Accounts.
I apologize, but please, I don't know what bearing this has on putting another full-time person in there.
That means
That's
that-
kudos. That's an absolute
That
kudos.
means we did our job and we had the office staffed.
This was back prior to last year then, before you got cut?
Yes, this was 19 and 20,
That was referring to 19 and 20, my apologies.
yes.
How did it go this year?
We haven't been
Or the last
audited,
year?
we haven't been audited for 21.
Do you suspect there'll be any problems?
Nope.
So, any other questions? Any discussions? Does anybody? That's yours.
I think I've spoken enough.
So what's the motion on the floor, is there one?
No, there isn't one.
I make a motion that we go ahead and, give the auditor a full-time position, allowing her to maintain the seasonal person to June 15th of this year. That gives her the extra 2 weeks, but if she can close that position prior to that, that we would like her to be.
That would be the treasurer. No.
Oh, I'm sorry, the treasurer, my fault. I cannot do it. That's the auditor. The treasurer, please, I meant the treasurer, thank you, sorry, guys.
For a second.
Well, I'd like clarification, but, so I'm a little hesitant. On
Clarification on my motion?
Okay, could we open that up? So we'd want to make sure we also state that we're actually vacating the part-time auditor's position in this, because that's a part of the package. I think we did the
Okay.
seasonal to June, I think.
I did do the seasonal.
Yeah. would,
I forgot her
Okay.
position. So let me restate the motion. I hereby move that we go ahead and fulfill the treasurer's request in giving her a full-time employee while maintaining the seasonal employee until June 15th, with the expectation if that person is no longer required after May 30th, that position would be closed. Also, the part-time position is part-time, right? Part-time position in the hour's office be removed as well.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Anton. Any more discussion?
Yes. If it passes, I believe it would be a travesty to the recorder that we did not give her a full-time person. I'm not against the treasurer, not at all, and I understand what she's saying. But I also understand that I cannot vote for this because I feel it's an injustice to the court. Now, that's my opinion, and
Well, that's because the vote failed, but it wasn't because of the motion.
well,
I want to stand back on, because I generally stay on the same pace. But the treasurer's office, as far as, it's very important to get her taxes. And Loretta does a fabulous job. She does a fabulous job. But it's not, she don't have, most of the time, she don't have to have it exactly that day or something. When you're taking in taxes and stuff, that's really got to be done for the county's sake. And that's the only reason that I would vote for her, because I've said when I come in here tonight, I didn't want to put nothing on general fund until at least July. Because Jim has done a wonderful job of saving us our necks. But I think that the treasurer job, especially being as Sheila is dropping her part-time thing, and she'll be dropping her part-time thing to where it'll just about even it out, to where it's not costing the general fund that much money, and it's very important for us to collect our money. That's one of my, I've been in business all my life, and that's one thing you gotta do, you gotta collect the work. And that's the same way with the treasurer's job. And I don't have one thing against Loretta. And as soon as we can, I wanna get her the best help we can get. That's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I concur. The big difference is the general fund impact. That was why I voted the way I
Me
did.
too.
Had it been a full-time option out of perpetuation, that would have been a little different story, but that was never supported. So there is a bit of a difference between the two requests here, so.
So if we're all done, let's call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for working with us on that.
Okay, EMS.
I know I said that I was gonna bring a proposal, at the last meeting I said I was gonna bring a proposal. My intention to do that, but I was asked not to. And I was also advised that it couldn't be supported because they will do an overall raise for everybody. So I apologize for not bringing a proposal for you guys for everybody, for my employees' raises. Didn't hold true to my word after I told you I would, but I plan on doing it next month.
So you was asked not to bring your proposal, sir.
So you let us know who asked you not to bring it?
No.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask anyway. Which is fair. That's pretty bad, somebody asked you not to bring it. I'd like to know who that person was. Well, if the person's in the room, you got guts to say so right now? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Okay, let's go on.
I do think we need to bring up, though, that Chris has been working very hard on a lot of things, and he should have some credit for that. I know he and I have been working on shift-related scheduling. We need to meet with Jim. I don't know if you got that email. I don't know if tomorrow morning will still work, but we probably. Okay.
I dropped the ball on that.
I wanna verify.
So we're working on his shift, because he still has a 16-hour shift with sleep time. And the discussion is maybe going to a 24 without sleep time. So there's some technical things that need to be worked on there and the overtime, so,
Yeah, there's,
yeah. And then depending on where the cost levels come in, that'll,
well, for the record, it was not me. I would,
it wasn't me, it's not a council member, so.
I think it's pretty good for whoever did it, and I think you are not. Dr. Miller, I'll tell you what I think of you.
all right, are we ready for, I mean, do you have any more, Chris?
So Beth Eaton asked to be taken off the agenda for CASA, but she did ask me to just mention that she has great news, more to come. So she just didn't quite have everything that she needed tonight, but very exciting news for the CASA program, and she just wanted to come and tell you all about it.
Okay, 911.
So back in whatever date it was that you guys finally approved raises for dispatch, I had talked about there was a Senate bill that was currently getting ready to go through House and everything to, create minimum training standards for 911 dispatchers, telecommunications officers. So Senate Bill number 158 did pass, and what that is going to do is anyone that is hired within a 911 communication center is going to have to obtain a 40-hour pre-basic training, several NIMS classes, become IDAPS NCIC certified, also CPR certified within the first year of their employment. So we already do all of this training for all of our employees and then some additional training. So we already meet the standard, even though we would, if we didn't, we would have until December of '23 to put it all in place, but we are currently already all in place and already do this well before minimum training standards has passed, and that is going to be a statewide mandate of any 911 center in the state of Indiana. Some of the projects that's been going on with dispatch, we're still working on moving the CAD server, so we made some strides today, and hopefully that's gonna be finished up here in the next couple days. VHF radio project, so J&K has been out since last Wednesday, yes, days run together, I apologize. They have been out since last Wednesday, so they have converted all of our current repeaters over to a voter repeater system. They constructed the tower down in Freedom, and then they also did several updates to dispatches radios within our server room as well. All of it so far seems to be working pretty well. We do have a little bit of some issues with some static, but that is going to be some tweaking that they're going to have to come out and fix, and they will be back on Friday to fix, and we're gonna be doing lots of testing at that point. When we did have runs over the weekend, without fully turning the system up, radio traffic was much better than it was previous to installing all of this equipment. So we have very good, high expectations of how this is gonna go. So far, it seems like it's going very well. I did speak with the J&K techs today, and they're extremely proud of the program that they're installing here in Owen County. And they're going to be using us as a model for additional rural counties that kind of have the same topography as us, that have issues with connectivity of first responders out in the field as far as a VHF radio project. So I think we're doing pretty good things. And I believe that's about it, unless you guys have anything for me. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Highway Department.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just real quick, tonight when you approved the ARPA plan for the highway department, you approved for us to build 4 bridges. One of them is currently closed, the other one are all fracture critical. Chip seal 14 roads in-house and do a total resurface project, Parks Gravel Road, so thank you. Gonna be real short. I was gonna follow Chris tonight because we were both going to talk about the same thing, the broken part-time matrix. But I can't wait, so I'm gonna talk about it tonight. Truck drivers are hard to get. I could go over to Hannah or Crider right now and make $28 an hour myself. There's an ad in the paper at Quincy for a truck driver for $25 an hour. I've got an appropriation for my part-time truck drivers and my seasonal laborers for $45,195. Council members, I'm asking you to allow me to manage those hours. But I've got truck drivers ready to go to work because I'm in dire need of them so we can patch some holes. I'm asking you to raise the current rate of the 80% of the normal drivers from $12.63 to $15.79.2. If you don't do this, I'm not gonna have anybody to drive trucks. I can't hire them. Allow me to manage the hours. I've got a total of 984 hours left for truck drivers and a total of 2,576 hours left on the part-time seasonal, but if I manage those together, the part-time seasonal drivers, I could put them to work and they could pull hole patchers and we can get something done. Right now, and I'm not complaining because everybody in this room that's a department head is pulling their own time with their people. But I'm the only one at the highway department that's got a Class A CDL with a tanker endorsement and hazmat. One person that's willing to come to work for me as a part-time truck driver has those same endorsements. And if I'm gonna get these roads at least patched, I need a little help here with that. I'll manage it within my appropriation, but I need the bump in the hourly rate. That's all I've got.
So, I mean, are you just, okay, I guess I'm unclear, are you asking us to take action on that, or are you just presenting that in?
No, I'm actually asking you, Rachel actually prepared something and sent it to you, but you know, in lieu of asking for any added money, I'm asking you to take action on this tonight. With the rising fuel cost, I'm not gonna ask you for 1 cent more. I'm gonna have a hard time managing that. But I need the help. I'm spending time, and I don't mind, I spend time in the dump truck myself. I assist the superintendent the same way. I've got all hands on deck right now, but I did get rid of some employees last year to help. And seasonal part-time was supposed to assist me with that, but with what other people are paying in wages, I can't get anybody.
Is this $15.79 for a Class A CDL?
Yeah, well, it's for a CDL driver to be a Class B, but I have an individual with a Class A. It's not even close, but we've got some individuals that are willing to come to work for us because, well, quite frankly, they're retired.
What is the disparity between your part-time help and the full-time at the same job?
$3.15 an hour.
See, I have no idea how that started out, because to me, they ought to be paid the same rate for the same work. So I don't know how that ever started.
Yeah, and that's one of our discussions in our committee, was to tackle one of those side projects to bring part-time.
I understand we need to tackle that in a side project, but I can't wait another month. I mean, if you tell me I have to, I'm going to, but I'm in the season right now to work. I can't kick this can down the road.
This is for your part-time.
It is.
I make a motion that we grant him his request. We got roads, we got some money. I think we owe it to the taxpayer to go ahead and proceed. I wouldn't, if I had a CDL, I wouldn't work for 12 hours an hour, even if I was retired, and I am. I like you, but I don't like you that way.
I know I had a CDL, but I'm not getting it back, right, bring some more money. No, but my question is, do you have, how many part-time positions are there? How many are billed? What is the cost for this year for that current amount, and then what would be the extensive cost on the 1579?
Let's see. Looks like a total of about $5,373, but I would just adjust the hours. I wouldn't ask for any more money. I'd keep
That's
it
what we
within my
need
negotiation.
more right
Pardon?
now.
So, we'll give it.
I need help right now.
I know, but
How many
see,
part-time people do you have?
No,
now?
excuse me, just for the trucks, I have one right now,
One,
but
and how
she
many
is
is-
leaving tomorrow.
And how many positions do you have available?
3.
So you got 3 part-time truck drivers and you're going to,
I'm gonna have 0 tomorrow. And the difference in the truck drivers is $3,107.47 for the hours that have been allotted of 984 hours.
And even if the money had to come out, wouldn't it come out of the highway fund?
It would.
I agree with you, I'll second that. Did somebody second it already? If not, I'd say that.
is there any discussion?
I don't know how we do for is that. How long are you wanting to do it for on the part-time deal? What type of deal would we get in changing the wages?
Well, you know, again, again, nothing against your department, I'm not gonna support that now, and we had a deadline that we had adopted, that these kind of things, the numbers needed to be crunched and presented before the Wednesday at noon. And I know that's a technicality here.
Well, it is a technicality. We sent numbers in, but when I listened to things tonight and then the numbers that Jim and I went over, what was sent in does not work.
Okay, so, I've not had a chance to look at the numbers or anything, but I would trust that he's done the math.
Oh, I'm sure,
You know.
I'm not doubting nobody, but
As far as
I
the
just-
hours and, yeah,
what we're gonna do for.
but there would have to be an appropriation
So,
and
Yeah, but
have to
that's
be
gonna go
from
to
I
highway.
guess, okay.
I'm not asking for
Oh,
anything.
you do a transfer?
No, I am not asking for any more money. I want to work within the appropriation that I have and just cut the hours.
We wouldn't need an
Yeah.
appropriation.
Well, and that's fine, I got no problem with that, but it's gotta be done, I mean, I'll tell you right now, if I still have my CDL, I wouldn't be driving for you, I'd be driving for someone who paid me $20, $25, or $28 an hour. You know what I mean, so I can feel
You know, I got one of my drivers here, he only works for me, he's full-time, but he only works for me because he has a specific reason to stay in Owen County. That's
I've
it,
seen him up on my road, I know.
specific reason.
Okay, Greg. My only question, did you send information on this, before the Wednesday? And did I not,
This, we have altered, we have spoken with Anton in the past about moving some positions around. This is what we brought tonight to discuss.
but was it
This
in?
plan right here was not sent before.
Okay, that's my problem,
Yeah,
because
but
I did make
we
that,
said we wanted to discuss the matrix, this is a matrix problem.
Yeah, and I've not seen it prior, but.
I just,
Okay. No, that's fine.
Let the vote, we
do have a motion though, in a second here, so.
let the vote be held.
so, motion made and seconded, and I'm not, like I said, I have been in favor of making that.
But you just wanna have
But I
it
just
all
wanted it in
across the
hand.
board.
I just wanted it, well, my thing is, I need this in hand so I can study it before the meeting. That's why I made that we would not act on anything unless we had the numbers that we could look at, and that's where I'm at. So,
How are you gonna get these jobs done with these potholes if you don't have truck drivers?
I can't, that's up to these folks.
I'm a recent resident and these road conditions are.
and I understand that, and I would
I'm ready to
be,
see my own county, because I got bearings going out on my
Yeah, I
truck.
lose another wheel.
oh, everybody that goes on Concord Road knows what Concord Road's like, so.
Mount Carmel, but
And like I said, Greg, yeah, I would, I'm for this. I just wish I had had it in my hand and.
I understand.
In lack of, or in lieu of time constraints, I would call it.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? No, are you in favor or opposed?
I'm in favor.
In favor. You're in
I
favor?
know how it is to get rid of
And I understand that, and like I said.
But the only thing of it is, this is not a permanent deal till we get the wages lined out, or get it.
there's no expiration on the motion.
There's no expiration on the motion, and what the wage committee is going to do anyway is according to what Anton said not 5 minutes ago, and we're in the middle of, I can't even tell
Oh,
you.
yeah, we're in the middle, so it was 3, 4,
Call the
3,
vote again.
okay, well, let's try it again. All those in favor? 3, all those opposed? And it's only because I didn't have it in my hand.
Yeah, I'd like to finish my statement, only because I heard earlier that you guys had already seen the disparity between the part-time and the full-time, which indicates to me you know what's going on, and he knows what's going on. And you saw the difference, you know it's gonna come up anyway, and to sit there, to sit there and not say, you didn't say it, I don't buy it. I think that was
Chuck, I
very
think
unprofessional.
you were not here when we made that,
Should I take you at your word when you're talking in here, sitting in these seats? Because that's what I heard. You said, I could not believe there was a disparage between the part-time and the full-time, and you said, yeah, it's about $3.
You're mixing two different things though, Jack.
yes.
We know generally that there are differences.
The only reason I voted against it is if, when you change wages on this one, you change wages on a lot of them, and I agree. I know full how it's hard to do,
The
but
only reason I voted.
No, you know what, guys, all right, I understand.
no, I voted no
Oh,
last
okay.
time.
Okay.
No, I didn't know that.
Doesn't get-
I thought just temporary deal.
All right, moving on. Sheriff's Department.
I don't have anything that's concerning this meeting here, but I do have some concern for the public. I've been working on this project for about 2.5 years, it's finally gonna come and play out. As you know, we spend an awful lot of time up north. I mean, the biggest part of a lot of our crime and runs and stuff's up north. Yes, your area, sir. I met with, the Taylor Township trustees. We're coming to an agreement that if you didn't know where Mill Grove Restaurant Service Station is right across the north, there's been a vacant building for quite some time. Coming into an agreement with, Taylor Township and all the trustees that they're gonna let us use that as a substation to work that out.
Yeah.
It's gonna come in extremely handy. It's been a long process. We started on it a couple of years ago, but due to different situations and COVID stuff, we're back on it now. The remodeling is going well. Taylor Township's putting up the money. We're putting up very little from the sheriff's office. We'll be not asking the council for the county for a dime. We're hoping to open up in April. When we do, we'll invite you all up. It's gonna be a workstation for us. It could be a workstation for Chris Lunsford and his crew if he wants it to be. More than welcome. It'll be a place for training. We do all of our training, most of our training in-house. Most of our guys are trained, certified trainers. We don't have a place right now to do in-house training other than small videos. This building up here will give us opportunity to do our in-house training in our own county without adding any more additional expense to the budget. This is a great avenue, not only for the sheriff's office, but for all law enforcement, as well as having crime watch meetings, public safety meetings, training for children, just a whole array of things that we're going to be able to do in this building. So we'll be opening up in April. Just wanted to let you know, let the public aware that that building will become available to the sheriff's office today. And my thanks to the Taylor Township trustees and all the people that's been involved in this. Like I say, it's been a long process, but it's finally coming out of play. So hope to see you up there in April, have a little cookout, come up to see the building and see what we're gonna be doing.
So that's that metal sided frame structure.
That is correct.
Using our outdoor warning system, we have a site right there. Is that location?
There's a sign on Hardware Road, 231.
Got it, okay.
Have anything else?
No.
We already did the probation department transfers. So holiday pay issue,
I was just asked to put that on there. It had been brought up a couple of meetings ago at the end of the year that some of the sheriff's department employees were the pay adjustment versus 8 hours, 10-hour days. But I believe that the ordinance and stuff was read and it is what it is. I don't know that there's any changes, but I was asked to review it.
The question is that, we're getting ready to come into another holiday pay cycle. And some departments pay at the hours that they work, some departments pay the 8 hours that's listed in the, policy. So it was brought up a couple months ago in a meeting, and it said we need to table it and discuss it because it could possibly mean taking money away from some of the sheriff's deputies that were already paid, or possibly bringing those up to where everybody was getting paid the same. Everybody should have been following the same policy. So then in turn, are we going to go back and then retro pay dispatchers at 12 hours because we work 12 hours a day? So there was no decision ever made. It just said, we need to look into it and we're coming into another holiday cycle. So there's the potential for it to.
would that be something that would be beneficial to bring up at the wage committee? I mean,
It's not really a wage, I mean, it's a commissioner policy that's in the handbook, and Jim was supposed to review that and do whatever. It's been reviewed, and it's already set and budgeted for as is, so unless there's a change, there's nothing really further, I think, that we would have to do on that.
So the question that I brought up in the 2 meetings ago was the commissioner's policy for employees of the county. It says that any changes made to the policy will be given to the employees in an official notice. I've been working for county government for over 20 years, and I've never seen a policy change where the employees didn't sign that they received a copy of the new official notice. I have still yet to receive a copy of the official notice for the new ordinance, and we've went even a holiday beyond, I believe it's Martin Luther King Day. That was originally into the motion Chuck made. So I don't understand, in the 2016 packet, which I received last, that had that county employees earned holiday pay up to the amount of hours of their base salary. My base is 10, dispatch's base is 12. EMS has got theirs, county highway and the courthouse, everybody has different. We always wanna say that, we gotta treat each employee this way or this way. It's different, each county office is different. County highway works different hours than the courthouse sometimes. The EMS works different hours than that, we all work different. But it did say base rate of salary. I don't know what it says now, because again, I haven't received a copy of the ordinance, and I've been an employee for over 10 years in this county, and I have, since I came into office, or came into the work for the county, and I signed my initial thing at the auditor's office, that's the last time I signed that I received any new employee packet showing what our holiday pay and all that is. The holidays is the only thing that's paid out at 8 hours according to whatever this new ordinance says. Everything else is paid at the base rate of salary. I don't understand why it got changed, and I don't understand why we were never notified of it.
So is that something that Jim?
Can you get him a copy of that, Jim?
Something, I don't know, but.
That
doesn't come from the auditor, that comes strictly from the department heads. So a lot of them have to watch it, and I understand where Michael's coming from on the issue. You guys need to take a look at this,
this pay, it's different, it's not the same across the board. Everybody works different hours, different times, stuff like that, you really need to take a look at that. Your policy is only good as your handbook that's written. Your handbook in this county sucks. We talked about this, don't want to bring it up, and Jim knows this, nothing against Jim, hats off, he's done a great job. But your handbook has to be rewritten. It's not been for years and years and years.
I think, yeah, it does, we've been talking about that update, again, that's a commissioner function, this is a council meeting.
Yeah.
I understand,
But yes, if,
You talk to the commissioner about it?
Yes.
But then it also involves pay, so it's one of those that's back and forth, because council is in charge of pay, but then commissioners are the ones that set the personnel policy they changed it from your regular rate of hours worked to 8 hours. So, but then some still got paid at one rate and some got paid at the 8. So I'll just say it, are you gonna back pay dispatch, possibly EMS, or are you gonna make the sheriff's department pay their portion back? Those are the questions that keep coming, and that has never been answered.
The letter I received said from the auditor, said I owe it back. And I don't know how I can owe something back when I was never given a official.
No, in my motion, I clearly stated that they would not have to reimburse if the decision was made. And go back and listen to that.
No, they didn't, they did not, they got what had been submitted, because, and then it said it was gonna be readdressed or rediscussed and coming up. But again, you have two other departments that only got certain percentages that were paid. So if there's a policy change, I'm not going through it again. When they come up, whatever they turn in the holiday this time is what they're getting paid. And you guys will be short in your budget because they deserve, you can't pay two of them less than what you're paying the other. So it does need to be addressed on the total amount of, is it that base hours as they work, or is it the number of hours that is set? And if, again, you can't ask them to work 2 hours free, and that was what he related at the last meeting, was they was having to use a couple of hours of their own time because the policy says that they only get paid for 8 hours when they have 10-hour days or 12-hour days, whatever. Chris's are all over the place. So there needs to be, it needs to be refigured, whether it's the policy that's updated, that it's matching what their base is.
Well, okay, the commissioners did with the council's approval. There was a decision made that it was going to be 8, that matched the holiday pay that was appropriated by the county council. You as the county council made a determination that holiday pay would be in 8-hour increments and then paid. There was question to make sure that there was a across-the-board policy involving specifically the Owen County Sheriff's deputies, the Owen County Sheriff's jailers, the Owen County Communication Center dispatchers. That was passed and written and effective on January 1st of 2021. So
and EMS though, right? EMS is.
EMS has their policy that was set for them. So if you want a different policy, that is totally up to, yes, commissioner's policy, but it's also totally up to you. You are the fiscal body. The commissioners cannot pass a policy that involves a fiscal change without your consent. That's, I think it was litigated a few years back. So if you want a 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever it is, that's the will of the council. But the will of the council was that it was to be 8 hours, and that's what's passed. So it's not that there's not a policy there. There is a policy there. It's 8 hours, and that matches the appropriation that was made by the county council on how you wanted to pay holiday pay.
So is it 8 hours for dispatchers?
Yes.
Is it 8 hours for sheriff deputies? 8 for EMTs and paramedics? And 8 for jailers?
There's jailers, it encompasses the entire shift.
But that's the same though, so, but you were saying it's different. What were you referring to there?
It's the same, but when the policy was approved, I know because I do payroll for my department, I know my holidays were submitted at 8 hours. Other departments were submitted at the 8 hours, they were still submitting the hours they worked.
Okay.
That's where the difference is.
But if all departments just submitted the same way, then it should match the policy and it would be good then, is that?
Yeah, the policy says 8 hours, if every department turns in 8 hours, it's also gonna match what you appropriated for the year.
And this is holiday pay that's liquidated every quarter, it's paid out every quarter?
It's paid out every quarter. What I don't understand is why is the holiday pay different from every other benefit hour? If vacation gets paid out of 10, jury duty, every other benefit that the county policy says we get is paid out at the base rate of times the amount of hours we would typically work. Why did holiday get changed all of a sudden? And again, I wasn't notified of it, but I don't understand why it was even ever changed. Because if I was to still get paid holidays off, I would have to use comp time or some other benefit time to be able to take an entire day off if I was able to take a floating holiday like we used to be able to do. So the fact that any of us that work more than 8 hours don't get the base rate of pay that we make is kind of cheating us as an employee.
So holiday pay is liquidated though, you don't work the holiday, there's no, everybody works their schedule and holidays don't matter when they fall.
Yeah, you get it.
They're liquidated essentially.
Courthouse is closed, but everybody else still has to work.
Yeah, it's, part of
My
that.
question is, what do we need to do tonight before we get to minutes?
I think we need to get into a room and talk about this more in depth with some, these key office, department heads that have these positions with Jim and figure out what the policy is it being applied consistency, do the hours match the way they should? I think that's probably where we're at this point.
What was it, I mean, before it was changed, what was it like before?
It was your hours you worked is what you got paid in holiday.
At your base rate of pay.
So why was it changed?
I think it's because there were more days, like EMS would be kind of the extreme example. They work 24 hour or 16, but they work a shift and they don't get the whole shift paid for. They only work so many shifts, so it'd be a huge amount they'd be getting 12 shifts worth of pay, not 12 days or 12 8-hour days. And that really, it'd be the same, not as much with a 10. Yours work 12, so there'd be a little more, but it was more, what is the value of the day, amount of time off? And there's a certain value to that, a minimum. And everybody, I think, would get that now, but I think the concern is you're talking day units versus hour units. That's where I think the difference is. And we've got to drill down into that to figure out what those are and what that does. And I mean, how does if I may ask, on vacation time, like personal time?
It's all paid out at the.
Do you get an allowance? Like how much do you get and when? Like, is it so many hours? Can you take it off by the hours? Is it by the day? How does that get? If someone's off for the afternoon, is it?
It's based on hours.
If I take.
It's based on hours?
Okay. It's 10 hours. My vacation pay is 10 hours.
But
every benefit hour. If I had jury duty, if the county has a policy for that, it's paid at the base rate of pay times the amount of hours you would typically work in that general day. The only thing that wasn't was out-of-county court testimony if you were called out of county to testify somewhere. That was the only one that was specifically paid out at 8 hours in the 2016 update, prior to this ordinance change that I don't have a record of, so.
So when there's vacation that's given, is it specified so many days after so many years of service, or is it number of hours?
We earn more time for different levels of years of service.
Okay. We should double check it and take a look, but I think it's a little beyond what we can do tonight, but.
Can we table it for next month's meeting?
Postpone it?
Yeah.
And maybe by then we can get a little more information.
Because I think it does need to be addressed because I'm not sure,
Okay.
why it was changed, but.
So do you need a motion for that, or?
Do we?
I think we generally agree to do it
I
next.
think that's consensus, yeah.
Okay.
and there's, what's the courthouse employees pay?
7.
Okay, so I'm glad we're gonna look into it because, yeah, everybody else is paid 8, you know what I'm saying? And you work different hours. Length of days, courthouse employees work 7 hours a day, they get paid 7. So you have to look at it individually,
Yeah.
every department, individually.
Okay,
The courthouse doesn't get paid holiday pay, they just get, they get the day
They will,
off.
yeah, they get the day off. Yeah, that's right.
But it's
So
7
they still
hours.
just
7 hours,
pay
but-
Yeah.
You get paid for it, but yeah.
okay, the auditor asset management plan.
There is, an ordinance that was done in 2019, establishing a capital asset policy for Owen County. This is a requirement from the state. It needs to be done. The county got written up this year because we do not have a policy. It's our last by year. If we do not have one, come January 1st, we will be fined. The company that I sent you the information on, Data Pit Stop, is willing to do it for $4,000. As I said earlier, I have the money in my auditor's endorsement fee in the 1150 fund to pay for it, instead of asking the commissioners or the council to appropriate it from somewhere else, and working with him and the auditors and the departments to get it pulled together. I need $4,000 from my fund.
So with the treasurer, with that though, we had kind of committed some money from that fund. Do you have enough?
It was 17,000 that was in there, you only committed to 12, and if this is the 4, and then the
Because we
other-
already had the budget though for
Right.
35, so
Yes.
are you, it's close?
Yes,
Okay, but it'll work.
it will work.
Okay.
Motion to approve and, for the president to sign the salary ordinance confirmations and bring anything to us that
Well, okay. This was a different issue,
I
but
thought you said we were done. You got it.
no, we were talking about the fund. We needed to take action for appropriation on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies, I thought you said you got it.
So anybody wanna make a motion, appropriating the
Yeah, so
4,000?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Karen?
Motion to allow the president to sign salary ordinance confirmation summaries and bring anything to us to the board.
And, well, Anton seconded. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Okay,
You have Jack?
Jack.
Hopefully this is as easy as the last two. Like the one before that. But, I am here tonight to request, an appropriation out of the next salary banding account to provide the 911 director the equipment needed to program the 800 megahertz radios, and that was what, this next salary banding money was intended to do.
How much is the appropriation?
1,100.
I move that we go ahead and approve the request of the emergency director for $1,100 to the communications center for the upgrading of 800 megahertz.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Thank you.
How's that for easy?
Sorry, you had to wait so long, Jack. Okay. Elected official and department comments.
Yeah, I got a comment. We as elected officials don't run your departments, department heads, and I hope Chris is out there and hearing this. Because for somebody to tell you not to bring something when you're a department head and you think it's best for your department, my God, bring it to us. We deserve the right to hear it if you think you've got a problem. And then don't ever let somebody tell you not to bring something, folks. We don't run you. All we do is, all according to Title 36 or I think it's 36.1 something or other on the county council, all we're supposed to do is 4 things. And you know what they are? Anybody know what they are? None? I'll bet people on this council don't even know what they are. We're supposed to approve appropriations, transfers, set the county budget, and what's the 4th thing? No, my mind's not working. Only 4 things, that's it, that's all we are required to do. We do not run your departments. If I'm a liaison which I am to Chris and a couple of others in here, my job is not to go down and stick my nose in his office. My job is to be there to offer information when he requests it. If he comes up to me and he says, Chuck, I would like to bring this, what do you think? How's the best way to approach it, or can we use it? I'm gonna help him out. My job is not to go down there and tell him how to run his department. So, don't let nobody tell you not to bring something. I think that was extremely important, and Chris, I apologize.
Any other department head or elected official comments? Public comments?
I made this comment at the commissioners meeting, and I'll make it here. You know, the ARP money can be used for general services, so I think it's important when we are trying to rebuild balances in our general fund to not just consider ARP money for new expenditures, but to also look at what it can do to fund the ongoing general services of county government so that these other funds can build back up. I think that it's important for this council to understand that while the commissioners can come with proposals, that money can't be spent unless it's appropriated by this council. And so, you know, in looking at solving the long-term problem of spending in excess of what we were taking in, we do have this $4 million, $2 million of which has been appropriated, excuse me, and another $2 million is coming in that could creatively be used to build these balances back up. Now, they won't build balances back up if they're all allocated to new expenditures. And I think that it's a little bit, you know, it's important that we not look at just one side of it. Now, I've been a 45-year resident. I understand roads and bridges just as well as anybody else does. These are important things. They need some attention. I think it's important that it not be the exclusive focus of this ARP money as we go forward, particularly the next tranche of it. And use that as a bit of a bailout, so to speak, for some of the expenditure issues that have happened in the past for whatever the reason. And I'm not challenging the priority of what things were necessarily spent on, okay? But we do have to climb out of that deficit. You're not gonna get $2 million in any other place. You're not gonna get it out of the recorder's office, whether you put a full-time person in there or you don't. You know, that's not where this money was allocated. And it's gonna take a long, long time if we're just looking at all those littles to get replenished. We need to take a broader look at how this money is deployed. And it's not a unilateral decision. Commissioners and council have to come together on it, okay? But I would encourage you not to allocate all of it to new expenditure. That's my piece.
Any other public comments?
How many commissioners and council meetings have you had to talk about the ARPA money, strictly commissioners and council meetings? Have you had to talk about the ARPA money? Amen.
It's been discussed a long time.
It's been, yeah.
I got a question. You said that money can be reallocated, so, not that this is what you're gonna do, but could $2 million go straight into the general fund?
No, but it can pay the expenses that the general fund normally pays. And in that fashion, the general fund can be allowed to grow. Now, the general fund on paper says $900,000 in it, but when you net off the two negative balances, it's still around zero. If you were looking at that general fund balance as the sole thing that we gotta live by, you know, what would be the case against arguing, well, why don't we just overdraw payroll clearings another 50 grand and fund all the rest of it? You know, there is still a need to get money into the savings ledger of what's going on in this process.
Back to, not, don't cut him off, and didn't mean to cut him off, back to my question I asked is, how many commissioners and council meetings have you had to discuss the ARPA bill?
Okay.
It's been discussed every meeting.
I mean, talk about what we can
Right
do
here,
with
we
money
did,
and stuff
we
like
did
that.
here a couple times, didn't we?
No.
I was there.
I mean, but to sit and talk about what you can do with the money and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've talked directly with them too.
I think
We have discussed,
you and I were the only ones there now, weren't we?
well, at the last commissioners meeting, well, not the last one, but the time before, yeah. Mhm.
Wait, so was that 0 or was that 1?
And we've discussed it
It's
several
been a subject over the
I
last
don't
6
think
to
you can
7
say that
months.
there's,
I don't know, yeah.
An official,
But there's not been a separate agendized
Isn't
meeting
that
for
what
that
we met
long.
right here
And I think
for?
that's what the sheriff is asking.
You and I came at the same time, and there were different times, we came in here and.
you know, we've discussed it. So-
Yeah, I've been in some of the discussions, Paulie, when it's been one commissioner and one council member. I've been in those discussions. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm not talking about those.
Yeah, I think what you're asking is was there a formal
meeting.
process?
Right.
We did do that in
Yeah.
here, because we didn't all, I can't remember if we were all here at the same time.
No, I wasn't.
Well, they do.
I couldn't be here. They had a meeting, but I
Yeah.
couldn't be here.
That's,
Yeah.
No,
I thought they had like several, and people were like meeting at different
Well, many
places.
counties have set up committees of different members.
And I think
council
they had something
commissioners
else, Polly, cause you and I
work on
were at the
that.
same time, they set up times.
It never
What
came.
was that for?
We haven't done it, let's not dance around it or make waffle prints. If anybody was in the military knows what waffle prints is, you should be laughing right now. Let's just set it, would you like to set one? Let's set one with the commissioners. We got any commissioners left out there? None? Yeah, well, I'm not.
I don't blame them, do you?
I can't blame them either, but I'm still not surprised.
Well, at least he came to our meeting. Does everybody go to their meetings?
No.
No. So we can't fault them for leaving early.
Who said I faulted them?
Well, I think.
I just noticed it.
What's the possibility of setting up a formal meeting for that discussion?
But it didn't surprise me.
There's,
Well, there was gonna be one that was set, but then it got canceled. And I think the decisions were already kind of made, and that's where it had rested, so.
Yeah, those decisions.
I'm gonna leave with that note, that's the point I just made. You just haven't said no meeting, never beneficial, so.
To my point.
Have a good night, Sam.
Those
Motion to adjourn.
There is another
do
way.
we need to go with the auditor and
Yeah,
attorney?
He's right, and
Comments?
we probably should have said.
All right. Ben, you have any comments? Sheila? No. Okay.
See, they winked at.
I think that a consensus would be that the president of this council should talk to the president of the commissioners and see if we can set up a meeting. Everybody can understand, because I didn't necessarily like the way it went otherwise. Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We were something in here, but it might have been on the way.
Was it, there was also.
Cause they could only have, cause you and I sat back there at the back, yeah, I don't think it was on. Cause, it is.